Hello everybody and welcome to a very damp Spa-Francorchamps for the start of the second half of the 2026 Superleague Championship. My name is Caitlin Penny for the first time in about 3 months. That's right, I haven't been called Caitlin Penny in that whole time. I'm joking, of course. And today, for the first time in a long time actually, I'm joined by Amir Oates. Amir, how are you doing?
Thanks very much, Caitlin. It's great to be back at the Super League booth after I haven't commentated in about over a year. And thanks as well to Remco for the camera work as well on his side. But yeah, Spa-Francorchamps seems to be a very interesting one. The last 4 races, we had 4 different race winners. We could be on course for a 5th, but we have got rain, as you see here in the background of the intro graphics. We've rained as well last time we came here last year round. And oftentimes Spa-Francorchamps has sort of cemented itself as a momentum changer. Jarl Tyne and Tom Stevens both managed to put on last minute season momentum changes with wins here at Spa-Francorchamps. We could be seeing something similar here, especially when we look at the championship standings, Caitlin.
Yeah, 100%. The championship standings are getting closer. Not dramatically such. Loic Meunier still has nearly a win's worth in hand over his main rivals, but they are getting a little bit closer, and considering that Meunier hasn't actually been on the podium for the last 4 races, it is looking like he is not insurmountable. You can see there, Meunier leads with 117 points, and Sergio Fletcher is in second with 100. That is not actually the points tally that I'm seeing on the website, so something must have changed since the last race, and I will chase that down very quickly and see if I can work out what's happened there. But at least according to what we've got on the screen, we have Meunier first, Fletcher second, and Winnick third. On the website it's showing Meunier first, and Winnick second, and Fletcher third. But those are the main contenders in this championship. Carlos Martin, I'm expecting to do very well today. The Holland Racing Team drivers have had a good car this year, they've had a good rate of development, and they've had relentless consistency as well, which is unique for those 2 drivers. With all due respect to them, consistency has been something that they have struggled with in the past. You can see some of the other top drivers up there as well. Jan Grankvist returning after 3 races away, and my goodness is it good to see him back. Amir, we've missed having such a relentless competitor on the field, and I said this in my article earlier, but it's just not the same winning if you're not winning against Jan Grankvist.
No, not at all. GPVWC has always, the Super League has always hosted the top drivers in the R-Factor 2 platform, and Jan Grankvist definitely, over the case of not just the GPVWC but across all different leagues, has cemented himself as one of the world's best. Those 3 races in which he has missed just didn't feel hit as right, not only just for the league but also for Super Venturi as well. So again, it's super glad that he's back, and Caitlin, it looks like he has never missed a beat with his performance yesterday, and honestly, for how the momentum could be shifting, he could be on course to maybe get a race win, which could be added even more to that momentum to climb up in the remaining rounds of the season. But I think the other interesting thing, Caitlin, is, I think you've mentioned this as well, after Silverstone, almost all the teams are coming into Spa-Francorchamps with 100% of their cars, so hardly anyone is willing to take the risk of using last round's car, and they're going to pour everything here into Spa.
Yeah, almost every team has turned up with 2 brand new engines, fresh engines for this round, and I don't think there's any surprise there really. Spa is a power circuit. Admittedly, this weather has changed that slightly, because in the wet, power isn't quite as important. Obviously, it's harder to get the power actually applied to the road. So I think the teams were expecting more of a dry race, more of a straightforward challenge with those engines. Lion GP are the only team that haven't got a fresh engine for either one of those cars, and then there's one of the Red Archers and one of the Lunarks that also has a less than optimal engine. But every other car on the grid, so that's 24 of our 28 cars, are going to have completely fresh engines. It's basically like going right back to the start of the season with those guys. Obviously, we have also had some upgrades since the last round. But in terms of engines, it really is like a completely fresh slate, and we shouldn't see any drivers having to manage their engine wear or anything like that over the course of the day.
No, absolutely not. But I think we're slowly getting over through. You can see here, as you've said, start of the second half of the season, so everyone will be starting for 100%. and then we're going to go through to the Hungaroring and then over to the Hockenheim Ring after that. And then we've got a long break after that between the Hockenheim Ring before a grand return to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. And then from there, it is effectively 2 weeks after that till the grand end at Interlagos. So again, as we've mentioned before, Belgium could be that momentum shifter. So we'll see how Loic Meunier can respond to the pressure around him. As you've said, hasn't quite gotten onto the podium in the last recent races. So he definitely needs this in order to ensure that he defends his crown. This, otherwise it could swift to his competitor's favour.
Yeah, it absolutely could. Granqvist, I think, is well and truly out of it, I'm afraid to say, after he's taken a few different rounds out. I fully believe in Granqvist's performance, but 42 points is just too much to overhaul, if you ask me. I think at this point, the championship is very much between... so you got Loic Meunier, obviously, right at the top of the standings. You got Fletcher, who got that podium last time out at Great Britain, and got himself just 17 points behind. I would personally say anyone back to about Yartayan in 5th can have a little bit of a sniff at the top of the standings. Martin and Tyan yet to get victories, 4th and 5th in the championship, but I think it's only a matter of time for those guys. We know how competitive they are. Martin himself got 2 victories last season after saying that he was going to get none, and Yartayan seems to get a victory every time you least expect it, even when he's qualified well down the order. So definitely keep your eye out for him today, no matter what happens in this very damp qualifying session that's coming up in just a few minutes' time. Talking of qualifying, we're going to have 15 minutes to decide it, and we're looking for lap times around about 1 minute 50, maybe let's say 1 minute 56 in these conditions. In the practice, the top times, it's a little quicker than I expected actually. You've got Granqvist on pole, in practice at least, with a 150.5. It is worth noting though that you can use push to pass, you can use extra battery deployment in the practice session that you can't end up using. Overtake mode, that's the word that I was looking for, that you can't end up using in the qualifying session, so it does end up being about a second quicker anyway. I'm just looking up and down the order to see if there have been any other notable changes that I have to make you guys aware of. Looks like Norbert Jakob isn't here for this round. Che Hatch is stepping into his place for the second True North car alongside... we've got Mark Schluter in the other one. And also we have a debutant for TOP Esports, Luis Mesa. Luis Mesa, sorry, who was very, very good the other day in the Super Lights race. Finished second in that one in a very close competition with Sandeep Singh. And that was quite a race, actually. So definitely add that one to your watch later list if you haven't already. But yeah, he is actually racing for TOP Esports today, meaning that TOP are missing. In fact, TOP are missing both of their regular drivers by the look of it. Shimon Frelich is nowhere to be seen at the minute, and Owen McGorgy's car, I believe, is... No, so Mess is in... He's in Frelich's car and McGorgy's nowhere to be seen. So keep your eye on that, whether we actually get a second TOP Esports car turning up. But we do have a debutant in the guise of Luis Mesa, who's clearly very good at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, so he's still one to look out for today, Amir.
Important to know that he did that performance in the dry climate for that one, so it's going to be a little bit different. Whenever Spa-Francorchamps does pour down very hard, you almost have to acquire a completely different skill set in order to navigate around this circuit. But having Mesa being second place and really showcase his racecraft in Superlights and gave the run for his money, he did it extremely well, and I reckon we'll see Luis Mesa probably get into about a point scoring position, maybe in for Super League, is my prediction, which is, will be something incredible for the Spaniard to definitely pull that off, I reckon. But we'll see how it goes. If he is the only top esports driver, then he's already a bit of a disadvantage compared to the rest, so he's effectively on his own. But I still think he'll do pretty well, to be honest, Caitlin.
I can see him potentially doing well, but obviously these are very different conditions, much more challenging conditions, as you say. I've also noticed that we are unfortunately missing Jukka-Pekka Lalu for the first time this season. He's made every other race so far, but he is missing from the order, and he is going to be replaced by Patrick Magnussen, who is making his second start of the season in the Super Venturi car. Other than that, looks like a fairly typical grid. You got Maciej Majka, sorry, I say that every time. It is Mateusz Majka, in one of the Fraser Tartan racing cars, as we're aware that Sven Schubert will not be doing the rest of the season, at least as far as we know. We're on board now with Lewis Mesa. As you can see, the very funky design of Shimon Frelick's helmet adorned on top of that car, and the letters FRE for Shimon Frelick, the regular driver in that car. He's going just to the end of the Kemmel Straight now in the braking zone at Le Con, which must be difficult in these conditions because the car already wants to slide. Oh, look at him going off, and right as I talk about sliding wide, he takes a trip over the gravel, bounces through it like a rallycross car, and then rejoins the road. And despite a decent first sector, that will pretty much be that lap down the gutter, Amir.
Absolutely. You can already just see how much he wiggles around. Really, patience is the name of the game, Caitlin. You need to be very, very careful on your follow. Even when you think that you can go flat out, you can't quite. You need your judgment to kind of hold you back to aim completely straight. So I think we're kind of seeing that with Mesa. Mesa has to find that exact point to know when to put the throttle down. But for other drivers like Grankvist, it's almost second nature to him, as we've already seen him go out through to the first sector. And there's seems to be strong signs of the finish man struggling, Caitlin.
It's like the qualifying we saw in 2021 in Formula One. Obviously, the less said about that weekend, the better. But the conditions certainly seem familiar to the eyes of Grand Prix racing fans. Jan Grankvist is going well. His first sector was fastest of anyone on this opening lap, and about half a second back was Jarl Tijn, but he's gone even quicker in the second sector. Tom Stevens complete first. He goes through with a 2:02.2. So not quite as fast as I was expecting. I think the track conditions may have got worse. Jarl Tijn has now gone through, and it's a THR 1-2 with Tijn first and Stevens second. Tijn is the first driver into the 2:01s in this session. Fastest third sector of anyone was Sergio Fletcher, and the third sector is the one with most of the slower speed stuff, such as the bus stop chicane. But we're yet to see, where does Grankvist go? He goes fourth. So Grankvist goes fourth with this opening lap, but we still have plenty of time left in the session. I always say that at this point in the session, Amir, but Spa-Francorchamps is the longest track on the calendar, so therefore it takes you the longest to get around and start another lap. And considering it's raining and the lap times are over 2 minutes long, we're really not going to see that many attempts at flying laps in this session, are we?
No, I don't think so. I think the rule of, oh, it's raining down, so I'll do as many laps as I possibly can. The good thing about this is the wets are probably the best compound to do that in, because it lasts very, very long. It's almost like a medium hard compound in comparison to usually when you do it on the softs, I suppose. But the problem about being 7 kilometers is if it's downpouring hard, you're not really going to, they'll try their best to make a dry line, but I don't think it's going, with how heavy the rainfall is going to be, Caitlin, I don't think we will see that. They will definitely try, but I think it's just going to be rain from here on out.
Yeah, I think so. I was speaking to Toby Davis earlier, and I was saying basically, what are we expecting from this race? And when I say that, I usually mean strategy-wise. And he just said rain, which told me all that I needed to know. Ruben Machedi now coming through into the final sector. Talking of Toby Davis, this is one of his teams, the Fraser Tartan Racing Squad. Out of the final corner comes Ruben Machedi, kicking out the tail just a little bit as he tries to put the power down. Across the line he goes, and it's a P5, which actually is a very good effort for the FTR squad, who are currently sitting, I believe, last in the team's championship, and could really do with some strong results. But if anyone's going to get it, Machedi is the person that I would bank on. There's a few drivers in these early stages who are potentially higher than you would expect them to be. Dylan Fisher had a really good race a couple of events ago, and he does tend to qualify well. But even so, P3 would be a strong result for himself. You've got Luke Mitchell up there as well in one of the Lunat cars. Tom Vandervoort is in 11th place. Che Hatch is in 12th. Neither of those drivers have had anything even close to a top 10 finish yet this year. So the rain really acting as a bit of an equalizer so far, but as the cliche goes, there's still a very long way to go in the session, and we don't know exactly what the conditions are going to do, whether they'll, even if they let off just slightly, the track could get faster and then it could be all changed, but you really don't know in these wet conditions until it happens.
No, absolutely not. I think usually whenever the rain happens, it's not until like probably the very last minute until they have like a day or so they realize, oh, it is actually raining. We need to prepare for rain race strategies and rain qualifying. That you kind of see. Not everyone starts to like be unorganized, but I guess it's quite unexpected because usually in race simulations you don't really think about the weather that very often, and especially when you consider the last three career ladder races that we've had was all completely dry, FS2, FS1, and the super lights. So it might have been a bit of a surprise, but as you said, kind of the great equalizer that we've seen so much improvements from, like Fisher, Machete, and company. But we've also still got a couple of drivers that have also yet to set their lap times. I think they've realized as well, since there's no point in going out because it's not going to dry the track out, that they'll probably leave it until the last minute. So that will be, we still have to look out for Martin, Roche, and Myrna, for instance, and see where they'll place. Same with Pishka and Eros.
Just a quick update on the championship standings, and thank you to Remco for reminding me that the Excel spreadsheet maintained by Lorenzo De Chutis tends to be more accurate than the website. But yes, looking at the spreadsheet, it's strange to me that Loic Meunier has exactly the same results that he is shown as having on the website, and yet they've ended up with different points tallies. So I'm very confused as to how this has happened. But anyway, the spreadsheet is showing me that Sergio Fletcher is 17 points behind in second in the championship. Winnick is third, Martin is fourth, and Tyan is fifth. So scratch what I said earlier, those are the standings as far as I'm aware. But anyway, very confused. Sorry, did I say, what did I say? Oh, I said Lorenzo De Chutis. My bad. Sorry. I need to correct my correction. I said Lorenzo De Chutis. I meant Lorenzo Etericic Funcic. My bad, Lorenzo. I'm very sorry about that.
I think the funny thing as well, I was looking at the website just prior to this race. Oscar Soltero, who finished in the points last race, was listed on the website as scoring 0. But on the spreadsheet, he has correctly scored 2 points. So the website is, I think, in need of a bit of upkeeping. But
yes.
It does need a little bit of that. We apologize to everyone. Oh, your time going a little bit wide after the second sector. I think that might be an invalidation for the Norwegian, but I don't think he'll be too much of a bother to him. He's still comfortably in the pole for 3/10. Question is whether Stevens, Fisher, or Granqvist behind will improve with 5 minutes to go.
Lorenzo Etericic Funcic has oh no, that's an even older message. I'm reacting to a message as if he posted it ages ago. My bad. We did have an update today from Chris Williamson saying that Alessandro Maggio apparently had a crash at Radion. If that happened, that obviously means that he will not be able to set another lap, and that would explain why he's in the pit lane. So we didn't see that, but unfortunately, Alex Maggio, who is one of the main qualifying specialists of GPVWC, will be starting from the very back of the grid. Another driver who's going to be starting much further down than we might expect is Tom Stevens. He actually received a grid penalty after the last race, a 12-place grid penalty for an incident with Jose Soriano. So while it's currently a THR 1-2 in the order, it will not be a THR 1-2 by the time the race begins. Here's Sergio Fletcher now, second in the championship, 7th in qualifying, coming out of the final corner and accelerating towards the line. He was a long way down in the second sector though, so I'm not sure that he's going to gain anything from this. I think that may have been an aborted lap, and he's setting up for another one. You can, of course, do more than one lap at a time, especially on these wet tyres. But yes, that was not a particularly competitive lap there from Sergio Fletcher. Carlos Martin coming through the final corner and heading into pit lane, so fair enough. But he still has enough time to set up for one final attempt, which I expect is what he's trying to do now, Amir.
Xavi Ross improves. He's a very big improver. He pushes himself up into 8th. It's a very good lap. I was pretty surprised by Carlos Martin's first lap time. You've said about his strengths in Spa, but as you said, they've still got plenty of time. So I don't think it's going to be quite at all a danger to the Spaniard, just as long as he makes his last lap count. And as you said, the wets you can easily do 2, even if you have enough fuel, maybe even 3 laps if it ever swings by your favour. Looking over through Tom van der Voort, who gets a little bit eager to follow through to the final corner. But all yellows are around, which means that the Drake Racing driver will still remain in P12 at the moment with 3 minutes left to go.
And this is the time where usually we see all change in the order, but I haven't seen many changes in the order at all. I do wonder if the track is potentially getting even wetter than it was out of the session, in which case we would have quite a muddled grid. It would of course be Tyan on pole, followed by Fischer, and then Grangfist and Machete. Stevens would end up starting from 14th position, because I think it is a 12 place grid drop that he will suffer from. So that would be quite something. Matej Majka, my goodness, I need to start putting a penny in the Matej jar or something. But yes, Matej Majka going up in the first sector, down in the second sector. That seems to be where the drivers are struggling most, because you can see that they're losing seconds at a time in that second sector as they go through it. And I think that really speaks to the time that Tyan was able to set in earlier on. But it also means, whoa, and a big spin for Matej Majka. And does he keep it out of the barriers? Backs it in, but he keeps his rear wing, keeps his rear wheels. Won't end up mattering, will it? Because, well, he can get it going. If he can rejoin the track, he can set up for another attempt, but he can't really take a trip back to the pits. Those tyres that he's on, that's what he's got to keep. So even if they look like 50 pence pieces, that's what he's stuck with for qualifying. And he is setting up for one final flying run. I mean, he has to, I guess. He's got nothing to lose.
True, but I was wondering if the hit into the barrier maybe had enough damage to the rear wing, but I think Michael might have assessed the damage and thinks, nah, I've got enough time to go for one more, so he's probably going to make this one count. And with, oh my word, I think the damage of the rear wing might be affecting him, so he's not going to be able to go fastest in the first sector, which means that he has to put all that into the third sector. But a hit into the wall puts an end to Micah's day in qualifying, and P42 will only be the best for the Polish driver. That damage in the rear wing, Caitlin, I think was just way too much for the Polish driver to handle.
And we're making a lot of comparisons to 2021 today, but I think Lando Norris will be looking at that one thinking, yeah, I know how that feels. Of course, Alessio Maggio will have watched that from the pits and will be thinking exactly the same thing as well. Here's Luis Mesa on his final flying run, and coming through the very lovely named Piff Paff sequence of corners. It's a delight to say that name, but down towards Stavolo now, towards the end of the lap. Stavolo, of course, named because of the village that's just outside of it, and similar to the old The checkered flag is very nearly out. Did I just have a disconnection? Oh, I'm back, I think. Fair enough.
Yep.
My apologies about that, but anyway. We got the checkered flag now out and awaiting as they come up to the finish line. Through the bus stop chicane goes Luis Mesa, and towards the end of his first qualifying attempt in GPWC Super League, I'm afraid he's a long way off the pace. 23rd is going to be the best that he can hope for, unless anyone else goes quicker than him, in which case he would be even lower. But Mark Schluter now with an improvement in the first sector, keeps it on the curb through there. I know that in the real world of Grand Prix racing that would not be considered within the track limits. Here in GPWC, the curb is seen as fair game. It will be taken from manual track limits this weekend because drivers were abusing it in practice, and the in-game track limits weren't quite cutting it, so it's going to be manually applied, but hopefully we won't have to hear too much about track limits for the rest of the race weekend. Schluter keeping it just about within, and we're going to see what his second sector time was as he comes through Stavolo now, and it's a long way down. I think that the order we see now is probably what we're going to end up with, and I also think the track probably got wetter as the session continued. So unlucky there for drivers such as, oh, and into the wall goes Loic Meunier there, reigning champion and of course championship leader, bouncing off the barriers and spinning back onto the road. Xavi Ross now coming towards and you can see his time, 15 seconds down in the first sector. I'm not even sure why he's bothering to complete this lap, but anyway, Xavi Ross comes across the lap and goes P8.
We see Muno, I think we've seen some of the
Philip Puishke, the looks of things.
I think we saw someone improve at the end. Murno gets us into the pits. I don't think we'll see any more improvements into the final stages of qualifying, Caitlin, which means that Oates takes pole position, and by quite a margin, 3/10 to his teammate as well. So fantastic there by the THR driver. Yeah, we very rarely see qualifying decided in the first run, but today it was.
was because of the conditions. So Jarl takes pole position, and it'll end up being a pole by 4/10 of a second because Tom Stevens, of course, has that penalty. So Tyne takes pole ahead of Fischer, Grangfist, Machete, Schluter, Fletcher, Ross, Mounier, and Mitchell. Tom Stevens, I think, will start from 14th. There by Dylan Fischer on the first row of the grid. I commented earlier this season that he was proving to be more fish than Fischer. That was right. I said that back at the Malaysian Grand Prix, and Dylan messaged me saying that he quite liked that. So I'm going to bring that back for this round. Dylan Fischer swimming his way up to second position in the very damp conditions here at Spa-Francorchamps. And what can he do about Jarl Tyne right at the start of this one? Judging by that qualifying performance, not much, because Jarl Tyne seems to be in a class of his own here, Amir. Will that keep up for the race, I wonder?
Determined, because it was effectively a first run lap endeavor, as you said, so effectively you just needed to kind of go out on track as quickly as you possibly can and set a lap time again as quickly as you can. Xavi Ross was, I think, the only one that really came to mind who improved into the top 10 while the track was still raining. I didn't see anyone else improve. I was surprised how much struggled Mounier did, but also in terms of Carlos, who is also quite strong at Spa. I would expect him to be in the top 10, but he's a little bit off. So again, many questions, Caitlin, to see who could come out on top. Jarl Tyne seems to be, I believe, in the best position that he could possibly be in to get his first race win. But the people that he has behind him, can't really be, he knows that the race win is not for certain either. He has to do his best to defend from Fischer and Grangfist, and we said Grangfist has been on great momentum, and Fischer himself also has been in a very good momentum, so really it's anyone's guesses.
Anyone's guess indeed, and we head now into the warm-up session, which will last about 10 minutes before taking us into the actual race. Now, I know that right now you're quite used to seeing the highlights of the previous race. Unfortunately, we don't have that for you on this particular day. But what we do have is a hot lap on board with the brilliant Sergio. Is it Sergio Fletcher who's done it for us again today? It was going to be a different person, but I believe there was a change at the last minute. But we have a hot lap from Sergio Fletcher, who will take you around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
Hello everyone, welcome to Spa, one of my favourite tracks. We're approaching now the source, turn 1, hard braking. You can turn in a bit earlier, use the camber on the inside map to make sure you get good traction, because we're going to head into one of the longest full throttle sections in the whole calendar. We're making our way downhill into a Rouge and Radion. Just cut the curb on the inside, touch the curb on the right, and cut again on the inside, just keeping the line as straight as possible. And now we're into the Camel Straight. Feels like you're climbing and climbing forever. Now we're making our way into Lacombe. We're going to brake halfway through the left curb. We're going to clip the inside curb to rotate the car a bit, clip the left one for the same purpose. And now we're just going to launch it into the third apex. You can lean on the outside curb, he's slanted. Now we're making our way to Rivage. It's very easy to outbrake yourself here because it's downhill. It's a bit cambered, you can use the inside, make sure you don't lose the car on the exit. Now we're going to no name, faster than it looks. You can extend all the way to the curb, very bumpy, very easy to lose the car there. Now we're going into Porn, very fast, high commitment corner, just to lift, bang straight on the throttle. And now we're going to make our way into Fania. This corner can make and break your lap. We launch it faster than you think, the scamper on the inside, you can just keep it pinned on the inside on the left as well, track extend on the right. Now we're going to Stavelot, carry a lot of speed, go on throttle early because now you're going to Stavelot too. And again, a matter of keeping the wheel as straight as possible to scrub the least amount of speed possible. Now we're making our way into Blanchimont again, just taking the lines least with the least resistance, least travelling, easy flat for Blanchimont, and now into the last corner of the track, the bus stop, hard braking. You delay the turn a bit because you have a crest, you use the crest to your advantage here, for the right and the left, and now it's just a matter of getting good traction out of the last corner, and now you're making your way to the line, and that's a lap around Spa-Francorchamps.
Welcome back, guys. There you see the completed qualifying results after all of that. And Sergio Fletcher, who just took us around the circuit, did it again with a 7th place qualifying result. I'm sure that he would have been hoping for a little bit better. Obviously, his second.
Well, as you said a bit, Caitlin,
He can still do a lot. Oh.
Yeah, you've cut off again, Caitlin. Big apologies for that. But you're right about Fletcher kind of wanting to improve a little bit more. I think he's done pretty well for what he was kind of given onto the plate. Again, 4,000s off from Schluter. That's the one of the closest budgets that we have seen from qualify between Trudorf and Valle. And so I think Fletcher really needs to garner every point he possibly can up his fights against Meteor, but the important thing is he is positioned higher than that, and can, as we said again for Spa, like every momentum really does, or every result will matter from here on to the end and into Lagos, and Fletcher knows that every kind of advantage that he is against Loic, he has to kind of capitalize it by any means necessary. I think the absence of Maggio is going to hurt Fletcher a little bit. I think we'll never know what would happen to Maggio because of his crash to Radion. We've seen how great he has been in qualifying time and again, but I think it's going to be another big blow for Fletcher. So I think we'll see kind of a bit of a dogfight just between Sergio and Loic, but again, we could see other players play into a picture into this.
Yeah, sorry about that. But no, you're absolutely right. Of course, Tom Stevens has proven himself to have pace. So even from 14th position on the grid, I can still see him getting involved. But yeah, that's qualifying as you see it. Let a look at some of the other positions if you have that, Remco. See who's a little bit further down, because there were some people who were affected in completely the opposite position, the opposite direction by this weather. You can still see some very strong results there from drivers who maybe wouldn't expect to be quite so high up. Tom van der Voort, for example, has, and I hope this is fair to say, but he's been a little bit of a backmarker at times this year. But considering he's now in the top half of the order in 12th position, I think this is a good opportunity for him to show that he can do better than that. Che Hatch as well is very, very new to Super League still. I think it's only his Alright, I think I'm back. I may end up trying to restart my computer at this rate. I'm very sorry about this, guys. But just picking up on what I was saying, you can see as well, there are some drivers who are negatively affected by the weather. Maciej Winnick, one of the HRT drivers who are leading the team's championship, is down in 17th position in that qualifying session. And he would absolutely have been hoping for better than that coming into today. I was saying just then that Carlos Martin would have thought that he could have done better, but Maciej Winnick absolutely does not deserve to be down in 17th position and 2.6 seconds off the pace. That is not a Maciej Winnick kind of performance. Let's take a look at the last panel of the results, if that's okay. Goodness me, sorry, I've completely forgot or glossed over that Carlos Martin is even lower down. So the two HRT drivers are in 17th and 21st positions overall. My goodness, what can they do from there, I wonder? I don't know if they may not have developed a setup that is versatile enough for the wet conditions, or it may just be that they were caught out on track at the wrong time in these conditions. But
I think it could be a mix of both.
Who's to say they can do any better than that?
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right, Kellan. I think it was probably a mix of both, of not having the adequate setup, but also being immediately caught off by the rain. Again, from what we have seen in qualifying, we've only saw people that did first runs immediately out from the get-go, and Yoltide never seemed to have improved any more than the first lap that he's done. So Martin and Milnick, I think, came on a bit later than Yoltide and Stevens did, for instance, and that kind of negatively impacted HRT's situation in qualifying, which means that, honestly, Caitlin, for the race, they've really got no choice but to effectively take a gamble in terms of not only just the strategy, but also kind of the race-wise, and just really play all the cards they possibly can to maybe hope for some sort of opening to punch themselves up at the top 15. By their own skill set, they could easily get to the top 15 without an issue in the world, but it's a little bit harder whenever the rain falls. You have to really think about how you attack the track much differently. You have to be a bit more cautious as well. And often a lot more chaos means that often survivability can merit more than just pure aggressiveness, as we've seen in time before here, especially last year. Often, I think the survivors went on to, complete for the podium rather than those that made such aggressive overtakes. So that's going to be all that in mention. But we wait until Caitlin comes back for the time being, just as soon as she restarts the PC. A bit of apologies for that, but we'll be perfectly fine. 44 laps here for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Again, the very, very long length of the track means that it's going to be quite hard to navigate. It's going to probably be one of the most hectic first laps that we'll see in recent memory in Super League, especially from what we have seen over the time this year. I think this could potentially take the cake for the one for the most chaos, but we will see how all that develops. Yaltine, who could be on course to get his first win, will have to defend from a reunited Jan Grankvist, and also a potential for a big upset. Dylan Fisher as well, who's after clinching a podium 2 races ago, could be looking on course to get his first race win this season, and not just only for him but also for Lunak as well. So this is going to be so many different things available onto the cards here at Belgium. And again, a lot of position changes. Fletcher being just ahead of Munir. We'll see how Munir, we've seen him perform well, often starting at the back foot of things, but it's a little bit different again whenever it starts to rain. So the pressure is a little bit more on the Frenchman than on anyone else today to see what he could do to capitalise, not just for himself but also for his team as well. Spark is kind of suffering as well. Solterra, who's just been also outside the top 15 here, but we will see that as time goes on. We see people also kind of experimenting on the intermediums. They'll see if the rain is loose enough to do on the intermediates. There could be places on the track where the intermediates is just ever so slightly better, but looking over for the radar, according to the weather forecast, I think it seems to be 100% nearly all round. It does drop just ever so slightly, I think, as the race will go on. As we look over to the 5-minute intervals, it does drop down in temperature in about not a few minutes time, but 30 minutes or so. But actually the weather kind of stays 100 almost until I think the very end, so we might see a drop in rainfall down to 75% at the very end. So again, Caitlin did mention that there is a possibility for many people will do one stop, and I think I kind of agree with her, but I think there'll be some that might, if they're very aggressive on the tires. Maggio is kind of one that comes to mind. I think some of them might be thinking of pulling up a 2-stopper, which will put a lot of stress into the wets, which is extremely hard to do. But there might be some that will try their absolute best to kind of pull that out. So we'll see if they'll be able to do that. I think it's going to be quite an uphill battle for them. They need to ensure, they get all the right circumstances in order to really flesh it out. And also, of course, for that, they also need to be away from traffic. Traffic's going to play a very, very big role here. How are you going to strategize your pit stops? I think the wets are just so easily versatile to undercut and overcut. There's no real hard barrier, as we've seen in the soft or the medium compounds, that we might see in a dry race that would only cement them to a certain window of like maybe 2 laps or so. So we can see people maybe pushing 3 or 4 or even more to an undercut or an overcut strategy to their favor. I think the pit delta is going to be 20 seconds. So that's going to be something for the leaders to look out for, just to ensure they get ahead of that clean air right ahead of them, and utilize that to their best advantage. The checker flag has indeed dropped for the warm-up session, a very quick warm-up session. Sergio Fletcher with his simulation has seemed to be setting through the fastest one, a 2:04, and there is a possibility we might go through the entire race with the cars setting nothing but 2 minutes. The sun seems to be setting a little bit, but I think the heavy downfall might still continue. We'll see as the race goes on. Dylan Fisher again continue from his great momentum, and Luke Mitchell, that is a very impressive Lunar pace setting there from them both. And Greg Fisk again continuing where he left off through in Silverstone, holds on through the 4th, and Schluter completes her through our top 5 at the moment. Only a few people like not to do the warm-ups, which is going to be quite interesting, but that's the checker flag slowly dropped down. We're now going to get in preparation in time for the race in a very few short minutes. 44 laps we're expecting here of the wonderful Belgium Grand Prix as we await for the lights to come out here at Super League. Pushing over through to the race session now. A lot of anticipation boiling up through here. It's the start of the second half of the season here at Super League, and it could be anyone's here for the taking. Spa-Francorchamps has posed in the past very, very incredible momentum charges. Tom Stevens ignited his here at Spa-Francorchamps en route to second place, just losing to Jan Grangfist in 2024. 2025, it was Jarl Tyne in the other THR that won here at Spa-Francorchamps, and in that race, he would go on to record another set of podiums and a race win, but only fell short to Loic Munier. But again, it's where it reignites the championship battle, and we could be seeing that tier. Is there going to be another momentum change, or are we going to see something else here? But until then, we're going to look over through to the starting grid of today's race with the 44 laps. We'll look over through. It is going to be Jarl Tyne that starts on pole position, and he's of course to maybe get his first race won, but we'll have to find out from Dylan Fisher. He completes for the front row for Lunark. Jan Grangfest is third for Superventure, follows with Ruben Machete. Fraser Tartar Racing could produce massive points if he finishes where he starts. Mark Schleer for True North Motorsport is fifth, with Sergio Fletcher for Valley Esports in sixth. Follows through behind with Xavi Ross for Donis Engineering. Follows through with the championship leader Loic Munier in eighth. Luke Mitchell for Lunark is in ninth, with Jose Soriano for Road to Formula Racing completes through to the top 10. It is Tom Vandervoort for Drake Racing in 11th, with Clay Hatch for True North in 12th. Through to 13, it is Mateusz Majka for Fraser Tart Racing. Falls through Tom Stevens with the grid penalty. He drops down to P14. Philip Pushko for Drake Racing completes over through the point finishes with Jeffrey Fordier in 16th. Maciej Milnik in 17th, with Lucas Murdo for Lion GP in 18th. Eras Bashkili in 19th for Adonis. Falls through with Chris Shepard for Red Archer Virtual Racing Team in P20. Carlos Maurer for Holland Racing Team will be in P21st, followed with Pascal Pullitz. And then a replacement for P22nd. Lewis Mason for Top Esports, another replacement, 23rd. And Thomas Schwack in P24. Completes our through to the 27 car grid we have for today. It is Patrick Kurt Magnus who's replacing Yuka Pakalalu. Oscar Soltero, who's the last of the lap time finishers. He will only be starting P26 for Spark, and it will be Alessandro Maggio, the only person to have crashed in the qualifying session. He'll be starting at P27. I think I've heard that Caitlin Penny has been joined back us, and well, Caitlin, it's going to be quite an exciting endeavour. That's fine. I think we'll get it fixed before the start of the race very shortly. Caitlin, over here. Can you hear me?
Hello, let's test this. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Alright, and do I sound the same as I did before?
Sort of. I think it's your laptop mic.
I was gonna say that's a no then, isn't it?
That's your laptop mic, I think it is, but I think you'll be fine. Just a quick source, you'll be fine.
I can change it.
Oh.
Bear with me.
Yep, we're fine. Seven cars started to line up on the grid. We're going to come to racing in a very short while. With the rain soaked, how this is going to impact everyone's race. Jarl Tyne has got an absolute an opportunity on his hands, but he needs to capitalize it by all means necessary. Not only for himself, for THR Jan Grangfest starting in P3, he's going to see what he could potentially grab for his zone. It's going to be anyone's for the taking. We'll wait for the lights to come out here at Spa-Francorchamps for 44 laps. It's going to be quite an exciting endeavour as the rain pours on everyone. We'll wait to see who will emerge victorious at the 2026 Super Lights Belgium Grand Prix. The 5 lights are coming off. They're off and we're underway here. Pretty good start there by Jarl Tyne. A bit of a trouble there from Dylan Fisher. Alessandro Maggio having to start for the pits, has to wait for everyone to go on through. But it's Dylan Fisher going to swing around for the outside under pressure for Jan Grangfest, who's holding on to the inside through to last source. We've already seen a yellow flag very briefly in the first sector, but thinks it's going to be fun. Fisher manages to back off from Grangfest and it is doing his best to apply the pressure onto Jarl Tyne. Tyne will be the first to go through Rouge. Outboards for Radio for the first time of 44. We've already seen yellow flag in the first sector. That's Van der Voort who's jumping down for the order. And absolutely miserable thing to happen there. But yeah, Grangfest doing his best to play pressure to Dylan Fisher. Super close, side by side. But Fisher manages to hold off Grangfest for the time being. It is Tyne that still leads. Fisher in second and Grangfest in third. Incredible. Oh my goodness me, that might have been one of the THRs going a little bit off. Who is that?
I'm afraid Thomas Vock is dropping to the back of the pack as well. We got half the cars on inters, half the cars on wets, and already... and out of the race goes Sergio Fletcher. Second place in the championship. He is going to be last place in the race. Tom van der Voort is also out of the race, I'm afraid to say. But Sergio Fletcher, the biggest casualty already on the very first lap of the race. Tyne continues to lead. Fischer is second. Grankvist is somehow still in the race despite being forced onto the grass down the Kemmel Straight. It looked as if he was going to completely lose control of it, and let's not forget we've seen some big crashes there in the past, Tom Stevens. But yes, Tyne leads from Fischer, Grankvist, Schluter and Meunier. We're watching Schluter now as we come towards the end of the first lap, and Shepard's dropping down the order now. I think there's been yet more contact with Chris Shepard dropping down the order, and there were a lot of other cars around him who could... and he's out of the race too. His rear right tyre is off the car, and whenever you see a rear tyre missing, that is day done for sure, Amir.
Yep, that's the third casualty that we've seen thus far today, Caitlin. And again, Spa-Francorchamps in its wet, showcasing how difficult it is. The thing that messes with me, Caitlin, is the absolute mist that's produced. There's so little visibility going ahead, and you kind of see it in this chicane. So this is what happened to Fletcher. Oh dear, and it's collision between the two teammates, between Fletcher and Maggio, that's unfortunately put Fletcher to retirement.
Yeah, unfortunately so, and we're seeing it on board now from Alessandro Maggio, and you don't really see much from his point of view. You just see all heck kicking off ahead of him, and then he has nowhere. I mean, I say he's got nowhere to go. You can see that Fletcher's rejoining the road, but it's hard to see exactly where he's going to be going. Of course, the two Valley Esports drivers coming together there, and that is the cardinal sin of motorsport, you would say. Chris Shepard gets hit from behind, and is that Patrick and Magnussen, I think, making a substitute appearance for Super Venturi, and it's very light contact actually. You would not expect that to take off the rear wheel from a car, but unfortunately, day done for Chris Shepard.
A Tom van der Voort, who's qualified so well, was another casualty in this. He's lost his front wing, so I think this is coming out from... I'm not quite sure where that is, but there's the retirement, but was this coming out through Erouge, perhaps? So there we go. I think that's Micah coming from behind. And he got tagged from behind by Micah, hits the wall, and loses his front wing in the process, and that's his engine quitting, and day done for Van der Voort, which is very unfortunate because he qualified so well, Caitlin.
Yeah, it's just a stack up because, yes, Micah goes into the back of him, but at the same time, Van der Voort goes into the back of one of the True North cars. So it's probably Che Hatch, I think. So it's just a little bit of a stack up, and you get that sometimes going into a Rouge, especially when there's poor visibility, and especially when the cars at the front are trying to take it just cautiously enough to get through the corner okay, but also fast enough to not spin off or get affected by the cars behind them. And on that particular occasion, it ended up being more of the latter. But yes, Tyne leads at the end of the second lap now, followed by Fischer, Grankvist, Schluter and Meunier. And of course it would normally be about this time that we'd start talking about the straight line mode, or the DRS, as we still have it in GPVWC Super League. But of course, considering the conditions, there will be no DRS this early in the race, and there probably won't be at any point today. One thing I do find that's quite interesting at this early stage is that the wet tyre runners and the inter runners don't seem to have that much of a difference between them. There's big twitch from Meunier. Good gather up as he goes right over the curb, twitches about, and only just keeps the car pointed in a straight line. And that is how ragged you are going up Radion in these conditions. That's why we saw a couple of accidents in qualifying. And in the background there, you can see Che Hatch being overtaken by Lucas Murno. Murno, who was an absolute star in changeable conditions at last year's Mexican Grand Prix. And I think we saw Matthias Micah there going a little wide in the background. You can see him. He's in a fight with Xavi Ross, the most recent GPVWC winner. I see that Ed Hunter has asked us a question about him, which I'm sure we'll get onto in just a little bit of time. But Mathieu Micah only just gathering it up in time to get out ahead of Ross, but he did lose a place or two in all of that.
He did. Again, just the weather is so intense, Killen, and Very, very hard to see in these conditions. I think it's going to be quite down to pure instinct and just being as safe as you possibly can. That's going to be the case for a lot of these Super League drivers. Better than making it safe than playing dangerously and losing a retirement. It's going to be not only effective to your championship, but also to the car that you have. Everyone is coming in, almost everyone has come in with 100% as well. Lion GP, as you said, was the only one that hasn't come with quite 100%, but because of these changeable conditions, Murno is going to be able to fight along with these ones, unlike that he would have if it was dry. So he's really taking the opportunity as best as he possibly can. And speaking of the opportunity as best as he possibly can, Tom Stevens has also gotten into the top 10, so he's gained 4 positions since the start. We're looking behind us, Jeffrey Ross, who's going to try and look down to the inside of Jeffrey Fournier and through to the penultimate corner. He's down. I think Fournier doing his best to respond.
Oh wow!
Fournier actually goes into the pits. That's very early.
I wonder if this is a case of he thinks that intermediate tyres are better. I do think the Inters are fractionally better at this stage of the race, judging by lap times, but I would not have thought that they would be better by the extent that would require a pit stop quite this early. I think potentially he's just leaving himself a bit more flexibility, because obviously if it gets wetter, then obviously the wet tyres are better, but even the Inters can keep up. But if it gets a little bit drier, the wets really start to overheat. So I think the better tyre to be on at this stage is the intermediate tyre, and I think he's just conceded that it was a mistake to start on the wet. But even so, back into the race he goes, and he will continue on his way because you never know what will happen in these conditions. Maciej Winnick has gained a couple of places in these early stages. He's up to 14th from 17th on the grid. Carlos Martin is up to 16th from 21st, and Winnick is up the inside of Xavi Ross there, at least taking a little bit of a look. And Ross struggling about a little bit, left the door wide open, and he's one of the drivers on the full wet tyre who seems to be struggling just a little bit as we speak. I didn't realise actually that Lucas Murno, not only did we see him getting up to 8th place past Che Haas just a little bit ago, but he has actually passed 10 people in these early stages of the race. He's the biggest gainer so far, along with Alessandro Maggio, who of course started from the pit lane. So what a start that is from Lucas Murno. And while I was saying just a lap ago that there wasn't much between the wets or the inters, I think that in the space of the last lap alone, we started to see the wet tyre runners struggle even more than they were before and drop back. And I think that Lucas Murno, by starting on those inters, has really found a trick there.
Absolutely. I think starting the inters was a little bit of a risk, but for the people in the warm-up that was trying the inters, I think they've realised was actually marginally quicker than that of the wet, so that's kind of changed everyone's perception on what tyre to start on. So we've seen a lot of people going for the inters that maybe would have assumed, as Munia down for the inside of Mark Schluter into turn 1. Is it going to continue to be going side by side? No, it isn't. Munia puts it to bed, and that will be the Frenchman up in the 4th place. Another place added for Loic.
Yeah, and you can see Tom Stevens here going for Jose Soriano up the hill and up into Rouge Radion. Oh, and an instant, Jan Grankvist is dropping, he's facing backwards. Grankvist is backwards at the top of the hill, and he's out of the race. That's a DNF in the early stages for Jan Grankvist through a very similar incident, we presume. We haven't seen it yet, but it's in the same place as we've seen so many other people going off so far. Alessandro Maggio spun and crashed there in qualifying, as did Mark Schluter, and now we got Jan Grankvist facing backwards and retiring from the race, and we're going to see a replay of it. I very much hope there wasn't, well, there can't have been any contact. He was nowhere near anyone else on the road. You can see him going up the hill now. The dry line is forming. He sticks to it, and yet there's a massive snap of oversteer, and it's a humongous hit into the barrier on the outside. Just because of the angle that he hits it, there's no hiding from it at that speed. And you can see it now from onboard Jan Grankvist, and this is going to be an uncomfortable looking ride from the Super Venturi driver.
Just very, very heavy onto the curb. The curb is incredibly slippery, and you can take your chances, take your risks, but it always comes with a gamble. For Grankvist, he's paid the heavy price, which is very unfortunately a retirement. So very, very hard luck there for the Finnish driver, especially for his return in Silverstone. It's not quite exactly how I wanted to end his in this race, but yeah, if a man of his talents like Grankvist is in retiring so early on, then that really shows you just how hectic this race is going to be, Caitlin.
And Jan was saying after the last stream that he was starting to live stream his perspective of the races. I'd love to go back and watch that afterwards because I imagine that makes for some quite cinematic viewing. But anyway, Mark Schluter into the pits now, one of the drivers who started the race on the full wet, along with Jan Grankvist, of course, and he now bails out as well. I imagine that in the qualifying session they would have had to do some literal bailing out from their cars as they got all sorts of water building up in them. But unfortunately for the drivers who started on the full wets, it hasn't worked out for them because it started to dry out just a little bit. I will say I'm surprised that some drivers such as Ross and Soriano have stayed out as long as they had now, partly because it's clearly not working, but also partly because the pit stops here, they don't affect you as much as they would at other races. You can see Eros Masculi now all over the back of Lewis Messer, and going past him up the Kemmel straight, and he's got he's got Mark Schluter on his tail as well, one of the drivers who crashed at Redion in qualifying. But yeah, the reason I say that the pit lane doesn't affect you here as much as it would in other races is partly because of the conditions. Obviously, these drivers would have had race plans coming into this. Is it going to be a one-stop strategy? Is it going to be a two-stop strategy? That all goes out the window when it comes to changeable conditions because you've just got to react to what's going on track. You can lose seconds per lap on track, and you know that's the kind of thing that you can't make up with a well-timed pit stop. And then of course, and then of course you've got the fact that at Spa, as Mateusz Majka there goes past Jose Soriano up into 8th position, and Soriano continues to drop on those full wet tyres and is about to be passed by actual Maciej Winnick as they go up the hill towards Blanchimont. This is quite a tough place to make a move actually, just because you've got to be so brave around the outside, but if there's one driver who is brave, it's Maciej Winnick. But yeah, also this is a very short pit lane at Spa-Francorchamps. You get the optimal route out of the final corner and through turn 1. You get to skip turn 1 altogether, and it's quite a short pit straight as far as race circuits go. So I don't think that you lose as much time pitting here as you would at other tracks, and if I'd started the race on wets and immediately realised that they weren't working, I would have just called it quits straight away and gone straight into the pit lane.
Yeah, the pit time delta, I believe, for Spa-Francorchamps, as you've mentioned, the short pit lane, I think is about 20 seconds. So, for context, if your type pits now, he will only drop to P9. So that's, again, showcases just how, with a short pit lane, that means you could be a lot more like experimental with your pit strategies and vice versa. I was really surprised by the weather. The weather has been so incredibly interchangeable because I was looking for the weather forecast for the formation lap, and it seemed to be predicted to have 100% rain throughout the entire race, but now it's gone. Now it's actually sunny, and we're starting to see a dry line starting to form. So in a couple of laps or so, there might be a few drivers, maybe those lower, will risk it for a dry compound and will relay that information to the front runners and see whether the lap times are quick enough to warrant a compound change. But the thing is, it's not quite big enough at the moment. It needs to be a little bit bigger, that dry line, in order to facilitate for a soft or a medium compound, I reckon.
There's nothing to say, of course, that it won't rain again. We're talking right now about the wet tyres being a poor choice, but there's nothing to say that it won't start raining again at any second, and I will keep looking out for that and keep checking race view as the race goes along, just to see if anything actually happens on that front. Just a few quick updates on some of the incidents that you saw in the early stages. Sergio Fletcher has continued on in this race in the hopes of getting absolutely anything out of it, any points that he can. I think one thing that Valet could potentially do is use him as a little bit of a guinea pig in this race. If the weather does change a little bit, obviously Fletcher is well and truly out of it. He's a whole lap down on his main contenders, both in the championship and in the race. But if the weather changes, they can stick him on the alternate set of tyres, whatever that is, at whatever point in time, and then feed that back to Alessandro Maggio and let him know how it's going. That is, of course, providing Fletcher doesn't hold anything against Alessandro after that first lap incident. But from what I saw, I don't think he should.
Oh, wow.
And he comes in.
He's listening to you.
Is he? Surely he's not going for slicks this early. I mean, I know he's a lap down. I know he's not really got that much to play for at this point, but surely it's too early for slicks, even as a bit of a crash test dummy. Comes into his box, and it is slicks. Oh my goodness, this is going to be cinema, and right on cue, Sergio Fletcher is the guinea pig of the race.
It makes sense though, because Fletcher's got nothing to lose, and honestly the best thing about Valet is there's absolutely zero risk with having Fletcher come onto the slicks, because he's completely in his zone. He won't be involved in any traffic whatsoever, and he's relaying that information to Matthew. None of the teams at the moment, like THR for instance, who's 1 and 5, can risk having Stevens move on to a slick compound, because otherwise he'll risk losing positions if it doesn't go well. And I think THR is probably aiming for 1-2, especially for how the Constructors' Championship is lined up. But for Sergio Fletcher, who's effectively out of the points, it's a fantastic gamble, and he's going to put onto the mediums. He'll relay that information to Maggio. If it's worth the risk, then Maggio will come to the pits. The only thing is that his data is not Valley exclusive. It's going to relay to every team around him as well. So I think he's effectively sacrificing not only just for Maggio's race, but also for everyone's race at this point. So I think if Fletcher does go quicker than the Inters and even the Wets, then I think we'll see a couple of people making that switch around in maybe 2 laps or so.
He's the only driver not on the lead lap at this point in time, having been literally on 3 wheels earlier on. It's impressive that he's still running at all. Alessandro Maggio is in the pits now. He's got to be going onto slicks. He must have had that feedback that it's worth it. He's gone onto soft, and I think that's a good idea. The reason I think soft is a good idea is because first of all, they get up to temperature quicker than the likes of mediums and hards. And also, if it starts raining again, it's not like you've wasted a set of anything more hard wearing. I think if you go onto softs and then there's a quick rain shower, okay, you've got a few laps out of the softs, good, you know. If you go onto hards, you're on a slow set of tyres that you then have to change off of anyway. So I think the soft tyre is the right one to go onto at this point in time. Jeffrey Fournier here, passing Mateusz Majka, who I finally got right, and I do apologise for the umpteenth time that I keep calling him Mache for no apparent reason. But Jeffrey Fournier does go up into 15th position now ahead of Mateusz Majka, and you can see all of those slick tired runners behind him now. Majka, Maggio, Soriano, Ross, Pollens, Mesa, Soltero, Magnussen and Fletcher. Those drivers are all on slick tyres now. So the top 15 are the ones on the Inters, but they are yet to pit, and they're going to have to, providing the rain stays away.
The problem with having the slicks is that you can't really, well, you can make an overtake, but really only on the Camel Straight, which is the best place where you could do it without any risk. Other than that, you're effectively kind of hopeless in terms of making an overtake in a corner, because it's still not very grippy outside of the racing line. So again, with what we've seen with Fournier being ahead of Mike and Maggio, they have to effectively be behind him for an entire sector and a half in order to maybe make a move. But I think the people that have been staying off a little bit late has also kind of bring on a little bit of renaissance to a few of the drivers. I think HRT is kind of the one that comes up to mind. Milnik and Martin both into 7th and 9th. But that's, of course, excluding the pit stops. They've got ways to go. I think the other interesting thing is there's people, you're mentioning about the people that are on the softs have an advantage. But I think the people in the mediums are predicting that this is how it's going to go for the rest of the race. They're not predicting any more rain to produce for the rest of the race. As Munir goes past Dylan Fisher for 2nd place, and Martin will make his way on past Mitchell for 8th, and that'll push HRT to 7th and 8th.
Now that's notable, the Munier and Fisher one in particular, because that is 4 positions. So the championship leader gains another place, goes up into 2nd position. And that wasn't really on our radar. I mean, I'm looking back, and about a lap ago, there was a 2nd between them. So I think Fisher has made a couple of mistakes on this last lap that have brought him back together. And you can even see here, Munier is a long way behind him going onto the straight. Does get an excellent run though, and presumably uses some push to pass, uses some of that battery to get through on Dylan Fisher and goes through. You can see the special livery, by the way. We haven't mentioned that at all for the Spark NIX Sim Racing team, but the Belgian flag resplendent on that particular car, and I actually think it's a really lovely looking livery there on the side of Loic Munier's car. But yes, he is up to 2nd place, and already nearly a 2nd ahead of Fisher. I think potentially Fisher's tyres starting to overheat in the conditions, and Munier may be keeping them a little bit better. You were saying, Amir?
Is Dylan Fisher on the fresher engine, or is he on the 71% engine? Because that could also play a role as well.
I assumed he was on the fresher engine, but you are right that Lunark have one and the other. It's annoying because on the sheet that we get, it simply says driver 1 and driver 2, and it doesn't tell us which one's which, so we kind of have to figure it out from the numbers. But anyway, Fisher, whoa, comes out right alongside Ruben Machedi there in the pit lane, nearly come together, and of course there was a coming together in the pits at the last race, as Aaron Vasquez went straight into the back of Carlos Martin, presumably getting it muddled up with iRacing. So I'm very glad that that didn't end up coming to blows again. But anyway, out of the pits comes Dylan Fisher. Machedi will do the same thing in short time. And here's Sergio Fletcher, and I briefly saw a yellow flag out there. Is his day done? Very much hope not. He's running very... Now what's happened there? That's really bizarre, because he runs very, very wide, but doesn't seem to turn...
too.
No, he can't be. That's got to be a mistake, because he's... Well, now he's turning the wheel and nothing... Well, he's not turning the wheel, not as much as he should be. So it almost looks like a hardware issue or like a pop-up or something.
I think so as well, so that's a very, very weird issue. I think there you go, Fletcher was on the medium, so he wasn't changed back into the wets very suddenly, but...
Yeah.
That's so weird. It's just
Well,
like the steering doesn't quite respond to what it wants, unless if it was intentional, but it doesn't seem to be, so Sergio Fletcher, unfortunately, another casualty in this.
He was barely turning the steering wheel. But yeah, that's Sergio out of the race. So the second place driver in the championship will be losing points now to both Mounier and Munek. And unfortunately, that's going to take him well out.
11:44, we'll see with Jortijn. I think, as we've mentioned, with the dryness starting to muster, I think we could see himself catch up to Murnau, as soon as I said it, Mounier and Murnau both call themselves into the pits.
They are, so Mounier and Murnau both into the pits now. Murnau did so well on those intermediate tyres, but they have run their life at this point in time. And I think this is, I was about to say the right time to pit, but I think the right time to pit would potentially have been a couple of laps ago. Lucas Murnau now exiting the pits. He's still going to be in the top 5, and he's actually going to be alongside Tom Stevens there on exit. Stevens, who of course has the run through being on track already. So at this point in time, it's Jortijn still leading the race, followed by Mounier. Oh, as I get the hiccups again. Tyen still leads from Mounier and Fisher, then Stevens and Murnau. And I believe, let's see, can we see the tyres that everyone's on again, if that's okay, Remco? Just so we're fully aware. So yeah, only a couple of cars. Is it just Masculi and Pushke left on those inters now? That's surprising, actually. I thought there were a couple more. But yeah, just 2 drivers left on those intermediate tyres. The majority of drivers who have gone onto slicks have gone onto softs, and you can see in the background there, that's that Matej Majka going for a move. It's Mark Schluter going for a move on Philip Pushke and getting through into 15th position there, which of course is the final points paying position in GPVWC Super League. But yeah, almost everyone going on to the soft tyres. And we saw a message from Chris Williamson just a couple of minutes ago saying that he expects DRS to be active at some point during this race. I would say that with the majority of cars on slicks, it's probably not that far away at all now.
Yep, I think so too. And I was actually pretty surprised that Eros was the only one onto the inters. Is that Soriano?
Yeah, Soriano's dropping.
He's down out.
Yeah, my apologies. Soriano's dropping down the order, and he is out of the race. So one of the drivers who was caught out by starting the race on wets and was already a little way below where he maybe should have been, is out of the race after some kind of, we presume, incident, although of course we haven't seen exactly what happened. So 22 cars now remaining from the 27 who started it. 28 were on the entry list, but of course we only got one of the TOP esports drivers for some reason. And we're now going to see a replay when we get it, if that's okay. You see him bouncing off the wall. And Ed Hunt has just pointed out that he was fighting against Tomasz Vok, who was his teammate, but luckily no more teammate-on-teammate contact. It was just a big twitch of oversteer from Jose Soriano as he goes heavily into the barriers on the outside. And you can see the rear of the car breaking away. That's what it's supposed to do, of course. In real life, that helps to dissipate the energy and protect the driver inside the car. In sim racing, it just makes for a spectacular sight, but unfortunately, it does mean the end of Jose Soriano's day. We see now Jarl Tyne has built out his lead to 5 seconds through pitting at the right time and also through having that pace on the inters in the early stages. He was already 3 seconds ahead before people even started pitting off of the inters, and he's gained another couple of seconds now as well. And if his qualifying pace is anything to go by, and if it translates into the dry conditions as well, then Tyne should have a relatively straightforward race from here, as he has a little bit of a twitch and goes over the curb. But he is looking fairly imperious in these early stages, Amir.
We're seeing kind of a man, kind of an element with his car, and Jarl Tyne has been incredibly phenomenal. I know it's been like, we're not even halfway through the race, but Jarl Tyne already seems to have been putting one hand on the race winner's trophy here in Belgium, and he's done absolutely fantastic, Caitlin. I think ever since he started from pole position, he's done everything he possibly can to deliver, and effectively kind of running away with it. Ruben Machete down through to the inside of the Adonis racing car. That will get himself up to 6th. He's done incredibly well as well to hold on to the FTR, at least within the top 10. There's another yellow flag in the second sector. I don't seem to see anyone dropping, but fantastic move there by Ruben as Eros goes into the pits.
Yeah, I saw him bailing off into the pits there. He was either going off into the pits or spinning, but yeah, the second camera view showed us exactly what was happening. We see a replay now, Pascal Pollens in the Lion GP car, and if he's had enough, that would explain why we saw the yellow flags. It's very similar to what happened with Fletcher, so maybe I was being a bit harsh with Fletcher there. He gathers it up before he hits the barriers, but you can see that chronic understeer as he goes over the escape road. Clearly, there's no grip out there whatsoever, and yeah, goes for a full 360. I wouldn't trust the fact that he was shown on wet tyres in that, by the way. I don't believe that that is realistic, but anyway, comes into the pits, still showing on wet tyres, which is a little bit strange, but anyway. Ed Hunter was sorry, my apologies, go ahead, Amir.
No, it's fine. I was just realised that Pascal was struggling to turn, so I'm wondering if it was the Stanley Warner on the outside of Pouon that could have caused Fletcher as well as Pascal, but yeah, apologies for the interruption. You were saying, Caitlin?
Yeah, Ed Hunter was just saying that it's very premature to call Jarl the winner, and of course it is. Loic Meunier is the car behind him, and Ed was saying that he's still a threat to him, and I was saying, I was going to say that yes, he is, although Jarl clearly has the pace in these early stages. However, look at the gap. What is happening here? So Meunier is on those soft tyres. The gap is realistic because you can see them visually together now on track. The gap was 5 seconds as recently as a lap ago or 2 laps ago. They're both on the same tyre compound. It's not an offset on tyres. Alex Laho in the
48.6.
That's true. Well, Alex Laho in the YouTube chat says that THR has got 0 straight line speed, gambled on rain, so they've got higher wings. That would not account for 2 seconds per lap, surely. I mean, yes, it could account for 10.
System?
Well, they haven't had any traffic or anything like that. I would fully believe that it would account for maybe half a second a lap or something like that. But this is absolutely swinging back the way of Loic Meunier. I mean, I was considering whether Tyne had made a mistake out there somewhere. Maybe he's made a couple of mistakes that we just haven't seen, but it does genuinely appear at this moment that Meunier is faster than Tyne by a matter of seconds per lap. So at this point in time, it looks as if not only is it not over, it's likely to change hands in just a lap or two.
Already 9/10 in the first sector, and I'm so sorry for that comment. I think Loic Meunier is going to be proven to be wrong in a matter of time, but we'll see how the second sector comes along. If that momentum is, well, I'm not going to say it's genuine, but if that improvement still continues on throughout the rest of the lap, because otherwise Jarl Tyne could be seeing himself in a massive pressure. Yeah, Jarl Tyne is starting to put the foot down. He's done a 46.9. He's starting to feel the pressure that Meunier is doing. Oh,
yeah, Machete's dropping. I think Machete's had an incident, I'm afraid. Oh, it's a big one. And he's going to be out as well, and that's such a shame. I was saying at the start, Fraser Tartner last in the team's championship and could absolutely do with a good result today. And with Machete running well and truly, I mean, he was 7th just now, and having had an incident, That is going to be absolutely gutting. You can see him here, he's running on the tail of Mathieu Munich, and it is exactly the same thing that happened to Jose Soriano a bit later on in the corner, but it's exactly the same thing, and he absolutely wallops that wall. So Ruben Machedi is out of the race, and we only have 21 cars remaining now. There are a couple of accident black spots on the track today, and look at Meunier. Meunier is going for the lead, and that's the straight where he's gaining about 8 tenths every time he goes down it. Now he gains 8 tenths and a position, goes through on Jarltijn and leads the race for the first time today in the Belgian colours at the Belgian Grand Prix. What a turnaround, Amir.
It's quick. He's absolutely quick. Again, fastest in the first sector that we've seen from Meunier, and he's going to try his best to pull away from Jarltijn. Tijn doing his absolute best to follow through, but I think Meunier seems to be switching the pendulum down to his favour. I think Jarltijn is wondering if he can do anything up his sleeves in order to respond to Meunier. He might hope for a bit of DRS to kind of catapult him, but I think Meunier's going to do his best to pull that away from the Norwegian. But we'll see how that time goes. Again, a bit of a fortune there for Machedi, just centimeters off the line, and that's all the risk it takes to go off a P1. It's the third time we've seen him crash in P1, Caitlin, so that's really seems to be a really risky corner. I think almost as risky as we've seen from Rouge Radio. So, but yeah, Meunier into the lead, but he's not pulling away ever so slightly. He's still just about almost in the edge of the DRS, even though Meunier's doing his absolute best to pull away. But I think Meunier will not have the DRS of Jarltijn behind, so that means he has cleared him for now at lap 17 hour 44.
Yeah, so two major accident black spots in this race. You got Pouin and you got Radion. These cars a little bit twitchier and harder to control than they were a year ago, and already we saw a attrition in races like this one last year. But yeah, Loic Meunier has already gained over a second on Jarltijn on just that last lap alone, and that shows the importance of setup. You know, Jarl was clearly set up for those wet conditions, hence why he was so much faster than anyone else in qualifying. But Meunier, I think, on the dry setup has taken the advantage of the drier conditions and has already, I mean, you can see him, he is gaining nearly a second on the straight alone, and he set by far the fastest lap of the race that last time around as well. No doubt helped out by the slipstream and the slingshot effect as he passed Jarltijn. But yeah, that is absolutely mad, as you say. I think Fischer is another driver who hasn't quite got the setup right. I made that joke again earlier on about him being more fish than Fischer, but unfortunately, as the dry conditions have come about, he's been a bit of a fish out of water. Fischer dropping from 3rd place down to 5th in just the last 2 laps, as we've been speaking as well. So Lucas Murno is now up into 3rd position in the Lion GP car. Tom Stevens is up into 4th in the THR, despite the THR's seeming lack of speed. My goodness, I'm just looking at the speed traps as well. Jarltijn's top speed that last time around, 311 kilometers per hour, which, okay, that's remarkably fast for any vehicle, but Loic Meunier's 344 kilometers per hour. He is 33 kilometers per hour faster on the straight. Lucas Murno is also 344 kilometers per hour. Murno is gaining 2 seconds, well, a second and a half a lap over Tijn as well. Yes, he's 8 seconds back, but I mean, Murno could be on top of him before we can blink. Look at this.
No, I'm honestly amazed how Murno would do, because I thought we were talking about engine wear at the beginning, and Lion GP didn't come in with 100% engine whatsoever, but the setup is just so right for Murno that he's managed to translate that setup into very well for the wet weather, so that when the dries come, that he can kind of put the floor down. Jarltijn, I think, could be in serious trouble in this rate, so I don't know how it's going to go, not only just for himself, but his teammate as well. He's also 320, so he's about 9 kilometers faster than his teammate. But yeah, this is not at all optimal for THR whatsoever. Obviously, the Mathieu Munich, he's going to try his best to make his pass through Dylan Fischer. Looks for one way, then back for the other for the camel stretch, and that'll be for P5 for Mathieu.
Yeah. He does go through, but as the YouTube chat has noted, it does look as if the clouds are gathering again. We could be set for another stint of rain. I'm continuously refreshing my live timing because I noticed the same thing, and I was getting ready to say that it was raining again, but the live timing is not showing any such change in the weather. So I'm going to keep on refreshing it and see if anything does actually happen, but for the time being we are still dry. There's Lucas Murno now, who is up into 3rd position, and we'll hope that it stays dry at least for the time being. Although he went very well on the intermediate tyres as well, so I'm not sure he really minds quite that much. Yartine is still setting fastest second sector times of anyone, but the second sector time is where all of those high-speed corners are. The high-speed corners, with that being the key word. When you get to the high-speed straights, that's when straight line speed starts to really affect you, and where you don't necessarily need that downforce, and downforce can actually be more of a hindrance to you. So cars with higher wings do well in the high-speed corners, the middle sector. Cars with fewer wings, with lower wings rather, do well towards the start and the end of the lap. So that's where Tyen's gaining. Tom Stevens as well, going very quickly in the second sector, but losing out dramatically on the speed traps compared to the cars around him. And now we see that I really thought I saw that there were drops of rain, but I think I'm just imagining things on behalf of the drivers at this point in time. But now we see is that Xavi Ross on the back of Mateusz Majka, and that's the battle for 13th position at this point in time. And Amir, Ed Hunter was asking earlier in the YouTube chat how we feel about Xavi Ross being a Super League winner after so many different attempts. But after holding off Jan Grankvist in that oh, and wide goes Majka. Ross gets up the inside. You can see a little scrap in the background as well with Jay Hatch and Jeffrey Fournier. They're going to go side by side up the hill as well, and Ross gets the place done. Majka's going to be under even more threat as they go down the Kemmel Straight. You can see the slipstream now from Hatch behind, opens the hatch on the rear wing, and they're going to go 3 wide with Fournier on the right. They're going 4 wide down the straight. Goodness me. And into the corner they go with Hatch ahead of Ross now. So Hatch up to 15th place, Amir. But back to what we were saying, I'm delighted that Xavi Ross has finally managed to break his bad luck curse. And I didn't get to say this last time, but I would like to congratulate him actually on a flawless performance at the British Grand Prix. But yeah, how do you feel about Xavi Ross's current performance, Amir?
He's done pretty well. I think he's been a fantastic appearance throughout the entire of the Super League throughout this. I think he's been pretty unlucky at some circumstances. Oh my word, that is Mateusz Majka going a bit wide for Puon, but does manage to recover, but he will lose out on the position through to Jay Hatch. He gets himself into P14, but Ross was, I think, delivered an all-time standout performance in Silverstone to defend from Jan Grankvist in Silverstone, and I honestly, on my hat off to him, it was a fantastic watch that I watched 2 weeks ago, and I think it's definitely a Super League race we will all talk about I imagine from the podcast for many, many moments to come.
Yeah, 100%. I personally think that if you'd asked me at the start of the British Grand Prix whether Ross would be able to hang on to Grankvist on the same strategy, let's not forget he starts on the same tyres, pitted on the same lap, and there goes Alessandro Maggio now picking off Fischer, who continues to fall down the order just a little bit. He's got Tomasz Vogt on his tail, and judging by the relative performance of the two cars, I don't think it's going to be much time before Vogt also gets through. Yeah, if you'd asked me if Ross could have beaten Jan Grankvist on pure performance, on the same strategy, all of that, I would have said that there was a very slim chance of that. With respect to Ross, of course, he's very good, but Jan Grankvist is one of the greatest of all time. But he's done it, there's no denying it, he's absolutely done it, and he's added his name to the GPVWC history books. And I also think it's fantastic that we've had 6 different winners from the first 8 races as well, because it shows you the unpredictability and the competitiveness that we're seeing in Super League this year.
Last 4 in the last 4 races too, so I think the fact that Xavi Ross managed to win, I think, really goes to show the testament of how impressive that this Super League talent is, that the fact that really anyone could become a race winner if the circumstances are just right. It's not like a guarantee that Mooney or Grankvist or any of the titans of R-Factor 2 are guaranteed a race win. Anyone can really become a race winner. So you see Tomasz Vogt make his way past on through Dylan Fischer, and the road to Formula Racing up into 8th.
Yeah, that was only a matter of time, I'm afraid to say, for Fischer, but Tomasz Vogt does go through into 8th position. He's a driver who I absolutely believe is capable of more as well, and potentially capable of becoming a race winner. He did that at the last, sometime in the last season, but I'm sure he's capable of doing it again given the circumstances. And you were right to say that basically anyone can become a Super League race winner, providing the circumstances are right. Because we've seen so much of a yo-yo style of racing throughout the course of the season. We're used to saying yo-yo racing from Formula 1, of course, but in this we've had a bit of a yo-yo championship. We've had the likes of Loic Meunier finishing first one day and then 15th the next, and you never quite know what you're going to get through the course of a race weekend. I think I just saw a change. Were Martin and Stevens the other way around before? I think Carlos Martin has... Yeah, Stevens has lost 2 positions on that last lap. So did Stevens make a mistake maybe? Because both of the THRs have got past him now.
That's, oh dear, that's not going to be good for Stevens whatsoever. We'll have a look for the replay. We've already known how the THRs were struggling immensely. But this is the replay. I think this might be showcasing what happened to Tom.
He's had a spin.
Oh.
He's had a full 360 spin, and that's why we didn't see it coming. He's had a full 360 spin and then rejoined the race. We're hearing that Pascal Pollens has also had an incident and not rejoined the race, so that's a shame for Pascal in the Lion GP. But now we're seeing, whoa, that's a high-speed lose from Tom Stevens there through the middle sector, just trying to ask too much from the car. And he had to, really. I mean, the second sector is where the car's strong, but he's still having to absolutely lean on it to get the most out of it in that sector. And unfortunately, you've only got traction until you don't, and then it all runs out very, very quickly indeed. Here's what happened to Pascal Pollens now. This is why he is out of the race. We're only going to have 20 remaining runners. He's really struggling for grip through there, but he hasn't hit anything yet. He's back on the road just now, and then pulls into the pits, and I assume just retires to the pit lane. So he was, and crashes into his pit box for good measure. But yeah, he was really struggling for grip out there, kind of all over the place, and then calls it a day at the end of that one. So 20 cars remaining at the exact halfway point in the race, and it's Meunier leading from Tyen, Murnau, Winnick, Martin, Stevens, Wok, Maggio, Fischer, and Schluter. Goodness, Fischer down to 9th place now, with Schluter catching him as well. And the other point scoring positions, if it was to finish like it is now, would go the way of Philip Puschke, Luke Mitchell, Jay Hatch, Jeffrey Fournier, and Lewis Messer, who is running 15th position on his GPWC Super League debut.
He's making me look like a genius. Well done, Lewis. I'm very proud of you. I think it's not at all easy, and especially in your Super League debut, to kind of finish on a point scoring. I think it's I know it's like it may not seem on paper like an easy hard task to do, but trust me, with the caliber of talent we have in Super League, finishing in the top 15 is a huge, enormous challenge. And I think the fact that Mesa's he did even, I think he qualified pretty decently, so the fact that he's within the top 15 now, halfway through, I think is short of incredibly impressive for the Spaniard. So congratulations through to Mesa for going through this far.
Loic Meunier continues to extend his gap up in front. He's a second faster than his nearest competitor in the final sector alone. Of course, his nearest competitor being Jarl Tyen, who is struggling in the final sector, so that makes sense. But even so, he's over 0.3 of a second faster than Lucas Murnau. He's about 0.3 faster than the 2 HRTs. Tomasz Wok is looking quick at this point in time. He is gaining hand over fist. He's actually passed Tom Stevens now, who made that mistake on the last lap. But yes, Wok is lapping quicker than the other cars around him, except he's not, because Carlos Martin, the times have just updated. Martin set the fastest lap of the race, and then was immediate, and he's passed Winnick. So Martin set the fastest lap of the race, and then presumably the 2 THRs swapped places, probably for strategic reasons, because they can see just how quick Carlos Martin is. And here you can see them going down the straight. I'm not even sure Winnick needed to pull to the side or anything, because Martin just had so much overspeed and so much pace and performance, and goes through into 4th position. So Carlos Martin is the fastest car on track right now. Winnick is also looking very, very quick. Tomasz Wok even quicker than Winnick. Mark Schluter is setting personal bests. Meunier is very close to his personal bests, and the cars that are struggling are those of Tyen, Stevens, so both the THRs. Maggio is struggling, Fischer is struggling, and the other drivers around them as well. But yeah, that's how it stands at just past the halfway point in the race, and Meunier has just extended his lead out to 10 seconds. It's very rare that we see a double-digit win in Super League, and of course it's still too early to be talking about the win, but hey, Like I said earlier on, it was looking good for Tyan. It's looking even better now for Loic Meunier.
Well, I'm going to say something that will annoy Ed. Meunier has put his one hand on the race winner's trophy at the Belgian Grand Prix. I cannot see anything to go wrong here. And before Murdo just overtakes him, we'll see a new race leader. So, I know it's not the... I need to be serious. My bad, it's the Super League. What am I on about?
No, I get that. I get that. Talking of serious, the YouTube chat, very serious today, as always. I've noticed that Owen McGorgy is there. Owen, where's your other car? You've only got one out there. What's going on? But yeah, if you could update us on that, that would be very much welcome information. I also see that we've got Shimon Frelick out there as well. But anyway, back to the race we go. Oh, Ed Hunter saying that we have potentially cursed Loic Meunier. That does tend to happen, doesn't it? I was literally just saying that, I mean, we were both saying that Jarl Tyan had one hand on the trophy and then his pace dropped dramatically with the changing conditions. That is one thing that could still throw a spanner in the works today. It always does when it comes to changeable conditions. But if it did start raining again, then it would swing back the way of Jarl Tyan. Whether he'd have enough time to do anything about it or not would remain to be seen, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. Carlos Martin, by the way, has just bettered his best lap of the race again, so he's the first driver into the 146ers in this Grand Prix, and that's very close to what they would be doing in a general dry race. So the track almost completely dry now, and what's up, Amir?
I just realised Murno's within a second of Jarl Tyan. We could be seeing a position swap for P2.
Yeah, he is. And you'll get the DRS as well. You get the DRS if you're within 7/10 of the car in front of you in Super League, rather than 1 second, which it was when we had DRS in Formula 1, or even overtake mode. But he'll be within DRS range very, very shortly indeed. He may already have it, depending on where he was in the detection zone. But you can see how much time he's gaining down the straight anyway, with that slipstream, and of course with the differing setups that those two different cars have. The top speed difference still absolutely remarkable, with the top speed that Murno's registered being 33 kilometers per hour faster than the top speed that Tyan has registered today. The fastest top speed of anyone, I believe, is Carlos Martin's 349 kilometers per hour. That must have had a healthy dose of slipstream to have recorded that. But yeah, that is the fastest top speed that has been recorded by anyone so far today, which is also held by the driver who has the fastest lap of the race. So Carlos Martin flying in every sense of the word as we just pass over that midway stage in the race. Little twitch I think I just saw from Tyan there. I think he's feeling the pressure now from Murno, and even though he's getting away in that second sector, he knows that it's not going to matter, because now they go up the hill towards Blanchimont, and this is where Murno is going to start to gain. And by the time they're on the Camel Straight, I'm not sure Tyan is going to have anything to say to the pace of Lucas Murno, and I think we're about to see a change for second, Amir.
I think we will. There's not really much Tyan could do. I think maybe to Tyan's likeness, he could hope that Lucas would stay back enough, so it makes it a bit harder for Martin and Milnek, who, keep in mind, Martin started in P20 first. He was outside the top 20 prior to the start of this race, and he's gotten the way all up to 4th, and Milnek was also quite struggling too. So they're one of the biggest gators. Same with Murno. 15, 17 and 12th and 18th is what completes through to the top 5. But we're seeing over the back there between Murno and Tyan. And look at this, not even the DRS. And through Murno goes. Tyan will do his absolute best to respond. But that setup just much, much better on Murno for that top speed. Means that the Brazilian easily makes his way on through. That's Lion GP's best running in second place this season.
Absolutely it is, and he's their only hope as well, because Pascal Pollens, of course, is out of the race. So Lucas Murno now up into second position, on course for what would be Lion GP's only podium of the season so far. However, we still got a long way to go, as the old cliche says, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see pit stops from these drivers as well. The soft tyres, of course, didn't really last that long in the Super Lights race that we saw the other day, and all of these drivers went onto the soft tyres after that pit stop. We saw another brief yellow out there. Oh, is it Tyan? Is it Yartine who's dropping from 3rd down to 5th position now? We also saw a change for 13th. Che Hatch has passed Lewis Messer, but Yartine just lost 2 positions there. Both of the HRTs have got him. And what is it with the HRTs passing the THRs? Obviously, when they passed Tom Stevens, it was because Stevens had a spin. Has Tyan just done the same thing? He's on the back of Lucas Murno. Goes into Puan. And that just breaks away again. Much like we saw with Tom Stevens, but at a different part of the track. And he scraped those tyres along the ground, so those tyres are not going to be happy with him. But once again, the 2 HRT cars come around a corner to what will, to them, be the beautiful sight of a sideways THR car. And they say, thank you very much, Christmas has come early. Into the pits now comes Yartine, and he will change over those tyres with a sigh of relief.
You find it mad that THR and HRT all have the same letters?
I have, yeah, I've considered that.
I know what your time was trying to do, though. He knew that the second sector was much better than that of Murno, and he thinks that the best place to make the overtake would have been now, as Milnik and Martin both exchanged places. So Milnik up ahead and overtakes Martin. So this could be an interesting strategy for their way to make an attack against Murno. They need to catch up to about 4 seconds or so, as we see Maggio exit for the pits, and he follows on through. That was Tom Stevens ahead as well, so I think both THRs into the pits. Stevens exits up 9th, Tyne in 7th, and Maggio in 11th, so they Mitchell sandwiched between 2 recently pitted cars.
The HRTs are using each other like drafting partners, like you'd see in a NASCAR race or a karting race. Luke Mitchell now taking a look at the back of Tom Stevens' car. Stevens struggling on in 9th position as we speak. But yeah, it may well be that the HRTs are actually gaining time every time they overtake each other, rather than losing time as you would regularly see. And in fact, Maciej Winnick, with that overtake, set his fastest first sector and second sector of the race so far, as if to perfectly illustrate my point. So I think they are benefiting from running with each other, and this is proper teamwork here from the 2 THR cars, who, let's not forget, started in 17th and 21st positions in this race respectively. You can see they're up 14 and 17 positions. Lucas Murno's up 16, Tomasz Vok is up 19, Loic Munier of course is up 7, and on a regular day that would be very impressive. Of course it is, but nowhere near as impressive as the 19 positions that Tomasz Vok has gained from his starting place. And I mean, that's just how Super League turns on its head sometimes. This happens, especially in changeable conditions. You can see the tyres that everyone's on now. You can see that Mark Schluter is not registered as being on any tyres because he is currently in the act of getting them changed. We'll watch that stop now. Overshoots his box a little bit, but luckily the game still registers it. He doesn't have to reverse back into it or anything like that. I have seen that happen before. Luke Mitchell also dropped a couple of places there. I wonder if he's in the pits, and he is. So into the pits comes one of the 2 Lunark drivers, and out now goes Mark Schluter back onto the road on another set of soft tyres. Of course, the advantage that these drivers have with the changeable conditions is that because intermediate tyres have been used, they don't have to use both compounds of dry tyre. Of course, in a dry weather race, you would have to use not just the softs, but mediums or hards as well. But in this particular race, we don't have to use more than one compound of dry tyre. You can go into soft, and that is enough for the rest of your race. So I expect that's probably what a lot of these guys will do, but it means that the strategy is a little more straightforward now than it would be on a regular day. Who's this now? Luke Mitchell going up into 15th place, passing Mateusz Majka there for the final points paying position.
Easy overtake, clean as you like. See Che Hatch and Fordy are also in chance of exchanging positions as well for P17. I don't think it was close enough. Che still remains in 17th. But easy for Mitchell, he gets into the points scored position. I think the burning question I have is, I know Milnik and Martin are going to aim to pass Murno, but look at the gap between the HRTs have to do to catch up to Munier. It's 16 seconds as Martin goes into the pits, and Thomas Fat goes into the pits as well. So we'll see what compound changes they'll do. I think they're one of the first for the leaders. We'll see where Martin comes out, and also we'll see where it comes out in relative to the THRs as well, how much they've either gapped or lost the gap. As the Spaniard out through the pit exit, I think he'll still remain in 4th. Yeah, clean as you like is still about 20 seconds away. Yeah, about 20 seconds away. That's the appropriate delta. Thomas Schwach just loses out on P5 as Tom makes his way through. So time sandwiched in between the two, so that's going to be pretty interesting. We'll see if Schwach on the fresher tyres could apply pressure to Yara, I wonder. Also, to keep in mind as well, the setup as well. So time a bit on a disadvantage compared to Thomas, I believe, as Mason Sotero also come in as well.
Yeah, Oscar Soltero and Luis Mesa both in the pits. Luis Mesa still with a very good chance of at least a point on his debut in Super League. He will potentially drop outside of the points here with Hatch and Fournier coming through, and they'll get the slipstream down the straight. But even so, there are other drivers who need to make their final stop as well. Need to in terms of their tyres are going to be toast if they don't, rather than need to for any regulatory reason. But anyway, Fournier and Hatch down the straight. Hatch goes to the right-hand side, goes to the left, goes around the outside of Luis Mesa and makes that move stick. And that's the advantage of being up to speed already as a driver's coming out of the pits. You get the overspeed on them and you have that momentum to carry you through into 15th position. But yeah, really good move around the outside still. It reminds me of a move that Sergio Fletcher made back at the San Marino Grand Prix. I think it was on Tom Stevens maybe. But yeah, that was a move that really took my breath away when I watched it back. And Che Hatch there doing his best to replicate it. Maciej Winnick now into the pits. Just 2 laps ago, he'd set the fastest lap of the race so far, but decides to pit for the last time and go onto another set of soft tyres that should carry him right through to the end of the race. And he comes out just behind Carlos Martin, his drafting buddy, who he will stay with for the rest of the race as well, unless anything else happens. Philip Pushke into the pits and drops outside of the top 10. There are other drivers ahead of him though, who we still expect to make one last pit stop, so it's not all over yet for a top 10 result for Philip Pushke, who has been doing better as of late. And you can see in the background there Tyan fighting with Wok, and Wok will probably get away from him as well, so Wok up into 5th position now.
Yeah, kind of what we expected, and Wok, I think, doing his best to hold on back from time again. Has the advantage of the second sector, but once it comes to the last and the first sector, he just doesn't have the engine, the top speed in order to respond. Is that a couple of people dropping from Micah and Mesa? I think we'll have to see. He has dropped a little bit, but he's gained back to 16, so that's an ongoing battle. But yeah, we're seeing Fox still a bit under pressure from time, but will push away. I think the Holland Racing team is doing absolutely good for what they can. They're still 37 seconds away from Munier, but he still needs to pit, and once he comes to pits, that will come down to 16 seconds. And Murno, I think, will also pit in maybe the coming laps as well. So if he does, then Murno will be behind those two, but will be on fresher tyres. But it's going to be a lot harder to overtake not one car, but also 2 cars. And that's the advantage Holland Racing Team has. By having your team at a log, you can easily defend with 2 than just 1. And that's going to make it much harder for Murno, even with the overtake system to his advantage. As we see Murno exits out the pits. He joins out through behind. He's kind of almost sandwiched between the 2 HRTs. Knowing that Milnik will try his best to deny, he couldn't quite get his nose into it through Eau Rouge, and will have to stick through behind. But I think Milnik will have the overtake system enabled, and he'll happily take the inside line, and Martin, with his teammate, will have the slipstream to his aid, and that's Maciej and Carlos. What they need to possibly do, they have done what they can to make the overtake past Murno, and now they're going to hope that not only just through teamwork, but also the gamble that they've taken for having fresh engines for this race, and hopefully that the conditions still remain dry, will be enough to hopefully push them away from Murno. As we're still at 31 out of 44, they've got still quite a sizable gap to Munier to try and catch up still, about 36 seconds. Even with the pit stop that Munier will have, it will only go down to about 16 seconds. So maybe it seems to be one of Munier's great races. He could be on course for a race win, but never say never. As you look further down behind, that is Mesa and Che Hatch exchanging positions, and it's Mesa who gets up to 14th and Che to 15th. As Jeffrey Fournier just eyeing for maybe a position overtake, couldn't quite get close into it as they navigate through the second sector.
And Meunier does make that last pit stop now. He's in the pits, and as you rightfully predicted, he's going to come out with about a 16-second advantage still, which is extremely impressive. You very rarely see this in GPVWC Super League. Ooh. There he is, another set of soft tyres, as you would expect. 16 seconds is his advantage over Carlos Martin and Maciej Winnick, who have got past Lucas Murno, as you pointed out, and that was only a matter of time as well, with the pure blistering pace that the HRTs have been setting. They have been the fastest cars on track, but it came too late for them. Meunier has just been relentlessly consistent, and even if the THRs took a second a lap out of him from now until the end of the race, it still would not be enough to overcome him. Meunier just has to make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes in this one, and he will be able to bring it home.
I think really the only thing that the Honda Racing team could do is just hope that the continuous slingshot through the Cabo Straight will be enough. But even so, it will maybe bite down to enough of a gap. But the thing is that they're both producing dirty air from behind, so Milnak has to worry about through the second sector of losing that time. That Carlos Martin will be ahead. So again, that could be a little bit, could swing a bit to advantage of disadvantage if they slingshot through the third or the first sector. But I think they can only really do it for the Cabo Stretch, really realistically. But speaking of which, we've had another retirement, and it is the last race winner, Xavi Ross.
That is such a shame for Xavi Ross. I was about to comment on that because I'm afraid to say I had another quick freeze, and I came back and I saw that he was out of the race, and I wasn't sure if I'd missed that you were talking about him or something like that. But apparently not. So we have lost the most recent race winner in GPVWC Super League. And unfortunately, I think Ross is a bit more used to retirements. He does tend to have some quite poor luck in GPVWC Super League, which is one of the reasons that I was so delighted to see him win last time out. Even with that win, he is still just 18th position in the Drivers' Championship. And we're going to see what happened now, and it looks as if he's just retired to the pit lane. So Xavi Ross, I think, was not happy with his setup, was not happy with how his race was going, and has retired from the race. Just very quickly check, Amir, do I still sound the same as I did okay after my little disconnection a couple of minutes ago? Oh, it's changed. Okay, BRB.
Yep, you've sounded a little bit crispy, but Xavi Ross has either scored points or retired. He's never managed to finish a race in which he has been completely, entirely pointless. But you can also see Murno is still doing his best to insert himself in this, almost wedge himself in this battle between, well, not really battle, Martin and Milnek are kind of collaborating together, but Murno has to do his best to kind of pick them off one apiece. But it's going to be incredibly hard for how well we have seen the teamwork of Martin and Milnek move their way up for the order to hold it to second and third at the moment. And while they're eyeing for a bigger picture in 16 seconds, maybe they have to really worry about the car behind Caitlin.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I should be back to normal again, but no, you're absolutely right. Ed Hunter in the chat saying, Caitlin comes back after a month and is having all the problems. It was more like 2 months, and I think my technology has forgotten how to be technology. But anyway, we're watching the THRs, the HRTs, I knew I would do that at some point. We're watching the HRTs continuing on their way, second and third position. But Lucas Murno, as you rightfully said, is sticking with them, and we'll see how long that can keep up for. Through the bus stop chicane they go, and how much of a help is Carlos Martin going to be to Maciej Winnick now? He will be helping him with the slipstream. Won't be helping him much through the faster corners. You got to say that the dirty air that will be coming off him will be a little bit tough to handle, at least through the likes of Pouon and the Pith Path. But when you get to this part of the road, this is where having a slipstream from someone is going to help you to defend from the car ahead. And we've got Murno now. Actually, it looks like Winnick's got more of a slipstream from Martin than Murno does on Winnick, and they're going to swap places.
Yep, easy as you like there for Milnek, and we might be seeing another switcheroo soon as they're trying their best to kind of plug up through their gap between themselves and Meunier. The thing is that they really need to be absolutely precise in terms of when to make the overtake, because if you lift off the gas a little bit too much, then you risk inserting Lucas Murno inside to that picture, as I think we're seeing a bit of overtakes going on. That's Fournier and the Adonis race one. That's in a battle for P14. But Milnek now leading is going to do his best to kind of push away a little bit between himself and Martin. Hope that the dirty air is not going to be too much of a disadvantage to Murdo, as we see Luis Mesa, who's got himself in the P12 with a fantastic overtake on Luke Mitchell at the top esports, doing really, really well as he's punched himself into the top 12. Could potentially, he's he's doing really well actually to fend off from Mitchell, Fournier and Eros behind. And again, Mesa proving all the doubters wrong for how well he would do in his debut here in Spa-Francorchamps. And yeah, just a fantastic performance from the Spaniard, I must say.
Right, I hope the microphone did actually switch that time. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, I think you sound. Yeah. Sound, you're still good. Good.
Okay, that's good, because apparently it didn't work before. But anyway, less about technology, more about the racing. My apologies about that. Luis Mesa, look at how he's doing. 12th position at this point in the race. I've seen a lot of people come into Super League and absolutely flop on their debuts. But Luis Mesa, I knew that he'd be good, especially when the circuit dried out, because this is a bit more like the conditions that he was contending with the other day in the Super Lights race. And that, as I said before, was quite a competition between himself and Sandeep Singh. And of course, Sandeep himself is Super League potential and has driven several times in the GPVWC Super League season. And in the background, you can see Luke Mitchell going very wide and Jeffrey Fournier sneaking his way through. Of course, Mitchell will actually get the slipstream and potentially the DRS up the straight as well, so that may end up helping him more than it hinders him. But yeah, a little bit of a mistake there from Luke Mitchell, as Aris Masciuli twitches about just behind him there. Masciuli, who probably would have been higher up the order had he not started on those wet tyres at the start of the race. Looks like Mitchell is going to drop back a bit further now from Jeffrey Fournier. So that was just a mistake rather than any underhanded tactics. And then Oscar Soltero getting past Che Hatch is the move you saw in the background, getting himself one space closer to a points-paying position. And with his teammate leading, that would be quite a points haul for Spark, who tend to be a little bit of a single driver team with Loic Mounier absolutely dominating these competitions.
It's not really easy being really Mounier's teammate, especially for his caliber. I'm not saying it's a bit of not a detriment, but I think it's quite a lot to kind of fall for and make it a bit easier. Soltero's been very, very good in the season prior, and I think he's just doing his best to find his footing. Starting penultimately in the start of in this race is, not at all an easy task, but I think Soltero would be very happy if he managed to score at least a point, and he's almost in the course of doing that. Caitlin just needs to get past Masciuli, and with how Mitchell has been struggling, he could be eyeing for even 14th maybe if luck favours him.
Talking of 14th, Luke Mitchell here, just on the back of Jeffrey Fournier now, and well, let's not forget that he was ahead of him a lap ago and then dropped back, and now he's got back onto the tail. I do wonder, of course, there's a bit of a link between Lunak and THR. I do wonder if Lunak have also gone for a wet weather setup, and that's why in these dry conditions they're doing decently in the second sector and then absolutely shockingly everywhere else. Toby Davis was saying earlier that his forecast said it would rain for at least 20 laps, and it ended up raining for just 4. But that can happen sometimes at Spa, unfortunately. The weather is unpredictable. Oscar Soltero now up into 15th place. Che Hatch goes through into 16th. Masciuli loses 2 places for the price of 1, and Hatch nearly has a go at Che Hatch looking to equal his best result in Super League so far with 15th place.
Could be doing that, could be eyeing for something a little bit higher. We'll wait to see how Soltero's race does pan out in the closing stages of the race. 37 at 44, we're looking over for Tom Stevens now, who's right at the back end of Mark Schluter, who's done pretty well for True North without 100% of their driver roster in hand. Che Hatch is just about within the edge of the point scoring position, but he's very, very well cemented himself into that. But Tom Stevens hoping to join for his teammate to maybe make a THR 6-7. And he will just need to make his way in past the True North Motorsports driver in order to capitalize that, as Remco says, oh no, because I have such a boomer humor. But Stevens right on for the exit through to the first corner, through downhill, and going through Rouge further out on Caitlin.
Yeah, I unfortunately work with kids, and that is the only sequence of numbers that I ever get to hear in my life. But anyway, Patrick and Magnussen is unfortunately out of the race as well. We have 18 drivers remaining in this race. When I say I work with kids, I of course mean the commentary box. But anyway, Patrick and Magnussen out of the race, 18 cars remaining as it stands, and it is turning into one of those races where you just have to keep going to have any chance at all. I mean, that goes without saying, but what I mean is that if you do keep going, you stand a chance. There is no reason to give up in a race like this because anything could happen. Here's Patrick and Magnussen doing exactly the opposite of what I was about to say, unfortunately retiring to the pits, clearly not happy with his car. You can see him weaving about on the way in, and usually that means he's picked up some damage and he's just testing it out to see if it's worth carrying on, and he decided that it is not.
It is very strategic, though. There's some people that will deem it not worth the risk and rather preserve the engine than to continue on and effectively be pointless. So, again, it's a bit of a risk-reward kind of factor that Super League holds that, you know, maybe we won't see in FS2 or FS1 or, heavens forbid, Academy. But, yeah, 38 out of 44. Milnek and Martin, through their teamwork, have pulled away from Lucas Murner. Has now gone to 3 seconds. So they've got effectively all the strategy in the world in their hands to try their best to catch up to Munier. The problem is, Munier on his own is still holding to a 16-second gap. So for Milnek and Martin, having their slingshot strategy in hand, it's just a net positive because of the, as you've said before, the dirty in the second sector is just too great, and they can't possibly work together in order to catch up to Munier. So as it stands, I think Munier could be right away with it. But Murno is still, even though with all that, even though he's quite far behind, if Milnek and Martin decide to battle it out, if they do it too early, then again they might insert Murno into this, and Murno could pull up with an upset with maybe a podium, Caitlin.
He absolutely could. I mean, the two HRTs are getting away from him. That much is pretty evident, judging by the fact he was 2 seconds closer to them a couple of laps ago. You can see Stevens now side by side with Schluter running right over the curb. They touch a little bit. These two have history, don't forget, and they're going down into Pool and now still banging wheels. It was like Mansell and Senna at Spain all of those years ago, but Stevens goes through and takes that 7th position back. Mark Schluter, Ed Hunter was pointing out, is doing a good job considering he started on those wets and dropped down the order to about 20th. He's up in 8th position now, but that is an overtake from Tom Stevens. That's genuinely for position there, so Stevens back up into 7th place as we speak.
And that's the advantage that THR has compared to the rest. It's just the fact that they can navigate so easily into the second sector, and once they make an overtake to that, then they can hopefully try their best to use the dirty air to push away.
Look at this!
But Mark Schluter invited his way back in through. This is going to be for P7. Schluter ran from the outside. Tom Stevens to the inside, at least for this corner, but Schluter have the inside through to the final corner, and Stevens is going to try and look for the switchback side by side, Caitlin.
Yeah, but now they're getting to the stage where Schluter is absolutely going to pull away. Stevens has no hope other than to send it up the inside of turn 1, which he absolutely does. And that's going to stop Schluter from getting quite as far away on the straight as he would. I have no doubt that he's still going to overtake him. Watch this. They go up through Overreach Radion now, and you can already see how close he is to the back of Stevens. Stevens, I wonder if he even lifted off there just to try to unsettle Schluter a little bit. And Schluter does get through on the straight. There was no holding him back there. But now we're seeing that yo-yo racing, because Stevens is going to close right back up again through these corners, and there's going to be nothing that Schluter can do other than hang on to his car. And Maggio is out. Alessandro Maggio is out of the race again, just as we've seen so many times historically. He retired from the lead at Saudi Arabia, don't forget, and unfortunately he's out from well within the top 10 with just 5 laps to go here at Spa-Francorchamps. And isn't that just the most Maggio style of luck you've ever seen?
Oh, I'm very scared to know what it could be, because Maggio either has spectacular crashes or spectacular internet disconnections.
It's going to be a disconnect.
It seems to be internet, it seems, and oh god, you can already see the stuttering coming on the exit out of Radio, and poof, into the garage Maggio goes. Another retirement added to his collection that is unfortunately at the whims of his internet.
I think he'd better do a speed test. Well, it's not loading. But anyway, out goes Alessandro Maggio, and we've got 17 cars still remaining in this race. But yeah, very unfortunate for Alessandro there. Don't forget, Spa is the track, and we're about to see actually a change for second as Martin's going to slipstream his way back through on Winnick once again. And they're almost doing it for fun at this point because they gained 4 seconds over Murno, and they're 16.5 seconds back from Loic Meunier up in front. And yeah, at this point in time, they're just extending their advantage. But yeah, what I was going to say about Maggio, do you remember, was it last year or the year before, where he had such a strange lag spike that he disappeared from the order and then ended up back on the start grid as if he'd never started the race in the first place? That was a really weird one.
This was last year.
Was it last year?
Last year. Exactly.
But it was the same track. It was the same track, same place.
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
And I think he disconnected in about the same place as well, because it was he was second on the grid that time, I think. Or was he first?
Oh yeah. I think it might have been pole position.
It was the front row anyway.
It was, and it was just brought up probably the hilarious GPVWC meme of the millennium, with him just being completely alone, and that will forever be immortalized, as we see with Stevens and Schluter. I think Stevens, again, he's just so quick on the second sector, Caitlin, but there's just hardly any overtaking opportunities whatsoever. He has to either risk it either down to turn 10 or even like 7 to try and do it. But the thing is, like, the first sector for the Camel stretch, he just can't get close enough to Schluter whatsoever. So Stevens just has to really prolong and keep the pressure to Schluter as much as he possibly can. And again, this is a yo-yo race we're talking about, and this could, honestly, Caitlin, this could go right up to the very last lap.
Final point on Maggio. Alex Laho just called him Garagio because he's back in the garage. That is absolutely brutal. We're now watching Tom Stevens right on the back of Mark Schluter, gaining, but it's all going to be for naught because now we reached a high-speed sector once again. And yeah, there's absolutely no stopping Mark Schluter in this particular sector. This is where Stevens sent that insane dive bomb a lap ago up the inside, but he's not close enough to do the same thing this lap, and now Schluter's going to get away even more than he did on that particular occasion. But yeah, just 3 laps to go now, and Schluter just needs to make sure that he gets far enough away on the straights that he can hold Stevens off in the corners, and he has been doing that so far, and it looks as if, because it's much easier to overtake in a straight line than it is in the corners. Stevens has a much tougher job here than Schluter does, because yeah, Schluter's already ahead of him, and second of all, if Stevens wants to gain advantage here, he's got to get ahead of him in the corners. He's got to outbrake him, or even go right around the outside of Mark Schluter's True North Motorsport car, which is not impossible, but it's significantly more difficult than slipstreaming past somebody in a straight line, and that's why it's probably going to be Schluter who finishes ahead out of the two of them here. That, or, and I hate to say it, and I reassure you that my chair that I'm touching is made out of wood, but that or they come together, because let's not forget, Schluter and Stevens have done so on several occasions in the past. I think of Singapore a couple of years ago, but that was far from the only time. So hopefully they keep it clean at least, and as they exit Stavelot again, it's still Schluter who's ahead, so I think that Stevens is going to have to sit behind him for yet another lap here.
Because Tyne is about 5 seconds ahead, 4 seconds ahead of Schluter. He could do something very strategic and maybe purposely slow down to maybe aid his teammate, because we've seen with the Hispanic racing team on how well they did to fend off against Murno. And if they could replicate something similar, then Schluter would absolutely stand no chance. But again, the thing is, Schluter is so quick on the straight line speed that it will probably be more of a risk for Tyne than it would be as an advantage for Stevens, because Schluter can easily make an overtake for the straight, and Stevens kind of has everything weighed against him. He's on a setup that is more corner heavy, but that only happens in the second sector, and Spa, again, apart from maybe turn 10, doesn't really have much overtaking opportunities at all for Stevens' favor. And on top of that, it is notoriously difficult to really manage this car outside of the racing line, as we've seen for turn 12 at Pouan.
will allow myself a little bit of a smirk in these late stages of the race. I put in my race predictions earlier on with my article that's up on the GPVWC website now, and my top two in my predictions were absolutely correct. Loic Meunier was first, Carlos Martin was second. Obviously, we don't yet know who's going to finish ahead out of Martin or Mouinek. It may even be that team orders come into play because Mouinek is ahead in the championship, although that is slightly cynical of me to say, so we don't know for sure. But yeah, I predicted Meunier first, Martin second. Xavier Ross was my prediction for third, so I guess I have to contend that if he hadn't DNF'd from the race, he would somehow have made a charge through to third place. But anyway, here we see Mathieu Mouinek. We'll see what they do on the straight. Sorry, Amir?
I realised I call it Hispanic. Thank you, Remco, for that correction.
It's okay, here we go again. We got Mathieu Mouinek going through on Carlos Martin and making that move stick, and again a very straightforward one, and that seems to be the only place that the HRTs will swap position, and no surprise there because it actually helps them more than it hinders them when they do it. So a well-timed move for Mathieu Mouinek, and will he now go on to finish second, or will Carlos Martin spring a surprise on the last lap? I rather think it's the former here. I think that Mathieu Mouinek is going to finish in second position, and I think that both of the HRTs will be fairly happy with that result, in all honesty. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, they can fight if they want to, but it could be a bit more of a risk than it is.
Whoa! Whoa!
Schluter and Stevens almost got into collisions again. Stevens makes his way up in his seventh with opportunistic move, but Schluter, that was very, very last minute of a defense. Stevens barely managed to scrape it on by. You can see there Jan Tyners within a second, so he is coming to aid his teammate just to pull a bit away from Schluter, but Caleb, that could have ended in absolute tears.
And he kept his foot in it. Gragfist did the same thing on the very first lap of the race, but Tom Stevens kept his foot in it, despite being half on the grass, half on the track, halfway to the gates of heaven, I'm afraid to say, and somehow managed to gather it all back up again. Tom Stevens there, in exactly the place that he had a major accident with Carlos Martin a year ago, has gathered it up after the hairiest of moments that you could possibly have had. What a ride that was, and I'd love to see a replay of that, maybe even from on board the THR if we have that.
I think we will be able to see it very swiftly. I think we're onto the final lap of the race though, and it's not quite all done here, but yeah, there you go. Here's the replay as you've aforementioned, and this is Tom Stevens. Look at the pedal.
Oh, what's this?
Down.
Oh, that's so late. That's such a late move of defense from Schluter there. That is so dangerous. And Tom Stevens doesn't care. He just keeps it planted and goes through. He keeps it planted while on the plants. I love it.
That's we'll see how the display committee reacts to that a bit at the end. I think that was so last minute from Schluter. I think he knew, kind of seeing the traffic ahead from time, that he knew that his moment to overtake was now, but Stevens just... that was so opportunistic. Hatch in P14 is doing his best to make an overtake through Jeffrey Fournier. This is going to be for P13. What a way to cap off for that one. Schluter has gone past Stevens again, and they're exchanging positions as... Oh my goodness me, side by side.
It's nearly happened again. Stevens goes through, and it was on that straight. I'd love to see if that was clean. Round the outside, they touch wheels again. Schluter trying to hang it out. Stevens gets the drive, and Schluter's last chance will be going up to the bus stop chicane. Meanwhile, Loic Meunier from 8th place on the grid, wins the Belgian Grand Prix with the Belgian livery on the side of his Spark NIX sim racing car. He donuts, and well he should. We very rarely see a race won by such an incredible margin. Mathieu Mouinek is in 2nd position. Carlos Martin is in 3rd position. I would have to say that either of those two could be my driver of the day today, because HRT have recovered from a terrible qualifying of 16th and 21st position. They are 2nd and 3rd. Lucas Murno as well. What a drive from him. He was so good on the intermediate tyres at the start of the race. It looked like he was on a dry track when everyone else was on wets, and then came through into 4th to finish it. Tomasz Vok gets his best result of the season so far, if I'm not very much mistaken, with 5th position. Jarl Tyne is 6th. We thought he was going to win it earlier on, and only just holds off his teammate Stevens to the end there. But Tyne is 6th, Stevens is 7th. Then it's going to be Mark Schluter, who recovers after dropping to 20th early in the race. And he's run out of fuel. Schluter runs out of fuel, and he gets passed across the line. So Fischer gets 8th, Puschke gets 9th, Messer is 10th. Messer gets 10th on his debut. What a drive! And Schluter crawls across the line in 11th position after running out of fuel just as he did at the Australian Grand Prix. Schluter's 11th, then it's Soltero 12th, Fournier 13th, then it's going to be Mitchell and Hatch, as Hatch got past Eros Masculi on that last lap as well. So even to the very end, there was drama, and Lewis Messer for TOP Esports, the only driver from that squad today, gets P10 on his debut.
And he just survived fantastically well. So this is what happened to Schluter and Stevens onto the final lap, Caitlin. And was this exactly the same as what we've seen lap prior? There is the assistance that Tyne is given. So my prediction was a bit correct, but this did not stop Mark Schluter at all. Side by side with Stevens. Look at how close they are. Nearly banging the wheels. Stevens gets his way on through past. And is doing his absolute best to respond through to Bruxelles. They comes in. Schluter swings around for the outside, but Stevens much more in the downforce. Could make his way on past. Again, that's the advantage that THR really needed to capitalize, and capitalize they did. So unfortunately for Schluter, I think he must have run out of fuel coming up for 18, and it was so close, because otherwise he would have finished into P8. But that's allowed for Fischer, Puschke and Mesa to overtake him at the final stretch. Like, what an incredible Belgium Grand Prix that we have witnessed here.
So Loic Meunier wins it, Mathieu Winnick and Carlos Martin 2nd and 3rd. None of those drivers had good qualifying performances, and yet they all came through when it mattered. Lucas Murno is 4th, Tomasz Vok is 5th, then it's Tyne, Stevens and Fischer, with Tyne and Stevens battling it out on that last lap, and Tyne really helping Stevens in that fight with Schluter. So Fischer is 8th, Puschke is 9th at the end of all of that. Lewis Messer should be very proud of himself with P10, and I'm sure that we're going to see the talented Spaniard back in Super League in the future. Mark Schluter is P11, then it's Oscar Soltero, who actually passed Fournier on that last lap, I think, goes up into 12th place. So Fournier 13th, then it's Luke Mitchell 14th, and Eros Masculi finishes in 15th position. Che Hatch is registering as a DNF there, so I thought he was going to get 15th place, but yeah, another driver out of fuel on that last lap. And normally wet races are better on fuel, so I don't quite know how they've miscalculated it so badly, but both True Norths running out of fuel on the last lap. Then it's Mateusz Majka, nearly said it again, in 17th position, who finished a lap down, and the only finisher not on the lead lap. Then we had so many DNFs. Maggio retired with a disconnection, very unfortunate. Magnussen pulled into the pits. Ross had an incident of his own, and we got plenty more incidents coming up as well. Pollens had one, Machete had one, Soriano had a huge one, Fletcher of course with a strange one at the same corner at Pouon. Jan Grankvist backed it into the wall, well, it was speared into the wall coming through Orange Radion. Shepard had a weird one where he lightly got tapped by another car on the first lap, and yet his wheel went flying off the car. And then Tom van der Voort only lasted as long as turn 3 on that first lap of the race. So a dramatic one, a race of attrition, and a race that saw so many unexpected results, at least unexpected if you look at the qualifying order just about 2 hours ago. But yeah, thoroughly entertaining one, race of the season so far in many ways. And Amir, what an incredible result we have just seen for so many different drivers there.
Absolutely. Meunier records it's now our 5th different race win in the last 5 races, but this is incredibly important for Meunier. He's been without a race win for quite a long while, and this has kind of excelled him back up into contention. I think this is important for the Holland racing team as well. 2nd and 3rd, they really needed it. We thought they were almost dead in the water and qualified, but they've done incredibly well in strategy, and chaos throughout the entire field. The THR struggling, but did absolutely all they could to pick themselves back up. Lucas Murno, again on interchangeable conditions, showcases why he's probably one of the best drivers in those circumstances. And all I can say, Caitlin, is welcome back to the Super League. I know it's been a long while, but it surely has rewarded you with probably one of our most hectic races this season.
Thank you so much. I am absolutely pumped to be back after all of that, and honestly, I couldn't have returned at a better time. But anyway, we're going to do our regular tradition of interviewing at least the top three, and hopefully some more people as well, if we can. So, of course, we have to start with our dominant race victor, Loic Meunier. Loic, hello and congratulations.
Sup? Hello.
Loic, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? 4 races off the podium, but you're back with a vengeance and 17 seconds ahead of anyone else. How did you do it?
Pure skill. No, I had a lot of luck, especially at the start where everyone went for death, and I had to escape somehow. So that was a very hectic lap 1. I already made 3 or 5 spots by then, and then the race dried up. Now I never expected rain, so I showed up with a dry setup, and the rain disappeared before the race started. So at that point it was very good for us. And then there was some shocking top speed from THR, so I'm not sure that would have even been a contest. And by the time everyone else has cleared THR, it was way too far away, so I could just stretch my legs, take care of my car, and get the best long-term pace possible.
Setups were one of the main things that we were talking about. You were mentioning the THR top speed. They thought that it was going to rain. You said that you didn't expect the rain coming into today. Is it normally a consideration, the wet dry setup? Were people talking about it before the event?
Yeah, it can dictate how you prep the race ahead a lot. If you expect rain, or if you've seen that the last 3 years in a row it rained on the track, you could expect some rain, at least. But for this one, we just never saw a single cloud on the radar. And then 10 minutes before the race starts, my engineer tells me, by the way, it's raining. What do you mean it's raining? What do you mean? I don't know how to... I've never seen the intermediate tire in my whole year. What do you mean it's raining? So yeah, at least a good baptism of fire. And a special shout out to our RD for changing the track limits on the morning of the race. That is so cool. Please do it again.
I'm sensing...
I just had to slot it in somewhere.
There, but
I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
No, I get it. I totally get it. That would be frustrating. But anyway, you managed it all right. But yeah, goodness me, with the changeable conditions, I am struggling to see where the gap that you built came from, because obviously your main contender in the early stages was Tyan. He dropped off quite early on, but the other drivers that were up there just didn't stick with you. So why were you so far ahead of everyone else by the end?
I guess it's confidence. I mean, it's what I told you. Maybe some people didn't expect the rain at all. I saw it 10 minutes before, and I started practicing 10 minutes before. But maybe you show up to the server and you see rain, and then it's like you've never seen water in your life. You're like, what is this? Why is this ruining my car? So, and then it's difficult to prepare mentally and be ready to hit the spot when you don't have any preparation at all. This league has a lot of competition. It's really tough. So any edge you can get, 10 minutes of practice maybe was the difference. Maybe had I shown up to qualifying with no expectation of rain, my engineer doesn't tell me it's raining, maybe I'm in the deep, you know. So that's the only explanation I can give you. Confidence and having proper information at not the right time, but the earliest you can get it.
Fair enough. Since we're now into the second half of the season, we can properly start talking about the championship without feeling guilty about it like we did in the first part of the season. The two HRTs swapped positions late on in the race, so Winnick ended up second and Martin was third, which I think is a clear indication that they feel Winnick is your main challenger. Do you feel like you're in a championship fight with Winnick specifically?
But specifically, it's not a 1v1 in my head. There's still a few contenders out there. Yeah, it would be cool to fight against Mache. I like him a lot, and we have a bet actually for the title. If he wins the title, I owe him a pack of beer, and if I win the title, he owes me some French cheese.
Incredible. That I actually really like the sound of that.
This is the kind of drama you can add in the broadcast. By the way, you can make it sound really dramatic.
No, I absolutely can. We get to the last
Yeah.
race and it's, will it be the beer? Will it be the cheese? It's coming down to the wire. I love it. No, thank you for that little tidbit. The final thing about this race, we noticed you had a special livery. Who designed that livery? And aside from it being the Belgian flag, is there any more story behind that?
You should add Vincent to the interview. I have no idea who did that. I'm gonna
Fair
go
enough,
on
fair
the
enough.
wire and say that it's the main designer that did it. I have no idea. But yeah, it's cool to finally not see some matte blue all the time. And got us some good luck, I guess.
Well, it's cool anyway, but yeah, congratulations, honestly. I'm joined today by Amir. Amir, do you have any questions or statements for Loic before we let him go today?
It's just a general aspect. Thanks, Caitlin. I think that the bet that Munya and Nonek has is a added feature for your penny for your thoughts, I think, for this round. But Munir, for your end, I think it's you've done very well here in Belgium. With the second half of the season get underway, you've already got 3 race wins under you. Was this race win in Belgium very important for yourself at the start of the second half of the season? And how do you feel for your preparations next up through the Hungaroring, which was it's not quite similar to Hungaroring, but a little bit harder to overtake than other races that we've been to?
Yeah, slightly harder to overtake. I don't think I've changed my approach since last year. I'm just taking it race by race. So every race has its own perks. It can depend on the weather, for example, as we've mentioned earlier in the interview. It can depend on what specific characteristics of the track you need. Hungaroring, maybe you need more of a qualifying setup than a race setup like Spa. So this changes your perspective on how you prepare the car. But mentally, I'm doing it race by race. The championship is going to come down to when it starts being mathematically possible to eliminate second place in this specific race. Otherwise, you try to maximize every race you have. And if something good happens, then great. Then just like any other race, you know, I don't try to win to gain points. I win to prove I'm the best.
I gotcha. Thank you so much for your time, Loic. And yeah, congratulations on your race win at Spa-Francorchamps. It was an incredible pleasure to watch you perform so well this race, honestly. And me and Caitlin had, I think, a lot of fun watching you lead.
Thanks. Pleasure is always shared.
Thank you very much, Loic, and thank you, Amir, as well. But anyway, we're going to move on now to our second and third place finishes. We'll start, of course, with second across the line, Mache and Winnick for Holland Racing Team. Mache, do you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, a good little drafting battle, if you can call it a battle there, with your teammate Carlos. Was it a case of you were helping each other to pull away from Lucas, or what was going on there in the late stages?
Yeah, it was about helping each other to pull away from Lucas in case we get too many cuts, just to create the 5-second gap between us. And I think it worked in the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure you quite got that 5 seconds, but you were certainly pulling away from him, and you got the fastest laps in the process as well, so that was pretty cool to see. A difficult race though with the weather. Did it affect your strategy much coming into it, seeing that you were quite far behind where you expected to be in qualifying?
Yeah, it affected us a lot because I think in dry we might have had one of the best cars on the grid, but in the wet it was total opposite, and I couldn't hook up a good lap. I think Carlos couldn't hook up a good lap as well in quali, and when the race started we just thought about survival and trying to think on the spot, gain places wherever possible, not thinking about the result in the end. But when it came to like lap, I don't know, 15, 16, when we were like P5, P6, we were then setting our target and we tried to aim for P2, P3, and I'm happy that the target that we set we managed to achieve. Although it wasn't easy, there was a lot of car we had to pass, and I'm grateful that we didn't do a lot of setup changes for wet specifically because in drying conditions we wouldn't be able to gain P2 and P3, I think.
Sorry, I was still on mute there, but yeah, no, thank you for that, Maciej. That was it certainly worked out for you in the end, especially considering you had to overcome that massive deficit after qualifying. But it's an important one, right? I mean, in the championship with Loic Mounier winning, was there much in the way of team orders coming into that late stage? Was it always that you were going to finish ahead of Carlos?
We were discussing on like live. We didn't decide anything beforehand, and the way it ended, it was we agreed inside the team on the positions.
Yeah, I think you made the right call, to be honest. I think that's the way you're gonna if you're going to catch Mounier, I think this is the way that you do it. So I wasn't surprised to see it, and the only thing that I will say about it is that it slightly messed up my race predictions, but it is what it is. But no, congratulations on your second place there, Maciej. A very strong individual and team result, and it keeps you just about within a win's worth of points for the championship lead.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later. All right, next of all, we're going to talk to the other HRT driver of Carlos Martin. Carlos, hello, do you hear us okay?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thank you very much. I hope you're doing really well as well. Obviously, you had a good little, I wouldn't say tussle, but a good little race with your teammate out there. And, you know, even when you didn't have other people to play with on track, you always found each other, which is pretty cool to see. An interesting race from the beginning because everyone, of course, came into it on 100% fresh engines. Did it have a bit of a season opening feel to it today, with everyone kind of on a relatively level playing field?
Sorry, I'm just very dehydrated. What is the question?
No, I get it. Sorry. No, I'm just saying that it was a bit more of a level playing field than usual, with qualifying a bit muddled things up. How was it from your point of view?
We didn't expect the rain at all for today. We were checking the weather every day, and we even checked today at the midday at 12, and it was looking full dry. So all this rain caught us. It caught us completely off guard. We were absolutely not prepared for it. The car was really, really bad in the rain, and we couldn't fix it in time in 30 minutes practice. So we checked the weather app. It looked like it was gonna dry at some point in the race. We didn't know if earlier or later. So we decided to not doing any more changes, just keep with what we had, and if it was a bad race, it was a bad race. And well, some drivers or some teams went for the wet setup, and we stick with a dry setup and a bit more downforce. Yeah, it was the right choice at the end, but it could have gone either way.
So obviously Loic was a long way ahead by even the midway point in the race, but with the amount of pace that you guys had, both yourself and Maciej, did you think that second place was going to be a possibility, or was that something that just kind of came out of the blue?
Well, when I started feeling the inters, which was, I don't know, about lap 5 or 6, then I started looking forward what we could do. First laps was just pure survival. We lost already 16 seconds in 3 laps because the fight, when you start P21 in the wet, it is what it is. It just happens this. and to be able to fight for P2 and then P3 from P21, it's a really great result. We spotted that the THRs were with very high wings, so maybe there was a chance to get them, and we saw that Murno was also a bit slower, and we tried to target getting to Murno, and then we started working together. Macha and myself, we were swapping because this rear wing increase that we did was a bit punching the air in the full dry. It was not the ideal thing, so we had a bit to do like the cycling, and it worked pretty well. We just decided to open a bit more of a gap at the end, just in case, track limits and so on. We get a big gap with that, more than 5 seconds, which was the target, and we just did, and yeah, we believed in it once the track was drying. Otherwise, no chance.
Carlos, your top speed today was insane. 349 kilometers per hour is what I'm seeing. I guess that was with some slipstream, but still, that is quite a ridiculous level of top speed. Why is your setup so much quicker than anyone else in a straight line?
I was meant to have 3 clicks less in the rear wing, so you can guess. Well, it seems that when we go to tracks that are higher downforce, like Silverstone, Suzuka, Malaysia, we kinda struggle compared to Adonis, compared to Vale, compared to Super Venturi. But when we go to these very, let's say mid downforce, like Jeddah, like Spa, like Canada, it seems, even though there are different metrics that the tracks are good for, like slow corners and fast corners, we seem to understand better the car, and we just do that. And the development with it was very orientated to have a great result today. So the fact that the rain showed up, it was a bit concerning, because it is what it is.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, Carlos. And like I said, a very good team result. The last thing I want to say, actually, we're into the second part of the season now, and we were just speaking to Maciej, and he said that you spoke together towards the end, and you decided that the best result was to have Maciej finishing P2. Is that an admission that it's Maciej's championship to fight for now?
No.
Basically, is there team orders now?
No, there is not. We just wanted to have this 5-second gap. To be honest, we both get the podium. If it was only one of us getting a podium, I would have fought it more. If it was one of us getting the victory, I would have fought it more. Third, second, it doesn't really matter. Really into the constructors. THR has won it so many years in a row. Someone has to try to beat them. We are trying, we're doing our best, and that's what we are looking for.
Well, your consistency is definitely carrying you to it, so you're taking all of the right steps so far. But yeah, congratulations on yet another podium, Carlos. You're doing very, very well at this point in time.
Thank you.
All right, so those are our top 3, and that's all of the interviews that we're going to get through today. So a really engaging race there towards the end. And Amir, I just wanted to say thank you to yourself for joining me for it, especially considering that I unexpectedly couldn't commentate the start of the race. I think you did very well at that. I think your energy was spectacular, and I don't use that word lightly, but no, really, really well done. And also thank you to Remco to Zeeuw for all of the sights and sounds and action and replays. We were very reliant on the replays today with so much action going on. So thank you very much to Remco for getting all of those to us. But Amir, any last words before the stream ends and closes on what has been a phenomenal Belgian Grand Prix?
Honestly, it's been fantastic. It's been a great race. I think it's been one of the most, probably the most memorable in recent memory of our Factor 2 races that I have luckily have commentated, and it's the first time I've ever paired up with you, Caitlin, and you've also been incredibly spectacular, so thanks to you. I think it was It was incredibly. I was really fortunate to have been paired with you, and thanks as well to Remco. I know it was incredibly hard with the lack of highlights and such, but you've done oh so phenomenal. So I always say my praises to you, Remco, and also to Chris Williamson and Lorenzo Etovic for their also help in the background. Chris Williamson was giving us updates for what was going on and some things that I might have gotten a bit wrong, but he was there to help me along. So thanks to him. And Lorenzo Etovic gives us the accurate live championship standings, and he also helped us with the spar guide as well. Meadow Claw is usually in those in charge of things, so big thanks to him for stepping up for to the last minute. But Loic Meunier holds on to it's his third race win. Mathieu Milnek and Carlos Martin both did damage control, having started from P17 and P21st, got second and third has been incredibly impressive. And throughout the rest, we've seen Thomas Schwack into 5th and also Lucas Murno into 4th. So they both push Road to Formula and Lion GP up through the table. But with the next record for from the Hungaroring, it's going to be a little bit different than what we see in Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be a completely different style of racing that we're going to witness. The question is, who will emerge victorious there? We'll see over as Caitlin Petty will still be along, and I think you're being paired off with Ross McIntyre, who should be back from his holidays at Italy. But yeah, I'm sure you're looking forward to that, Caitlin.
Yeah, that is the hope, of course. It's weird. It's so hard to get myself and Ross in a commentary box together nowadays. Not that we're avoiding each other or anything like that. Amir, I think we did commentate together once in I think it was a FS1 race a couple of years ago. I'm thinking Australia, but I might be misremembering that.
I've only been here a year. I've only been here for a year. I've joined last year.
I may well be misremembering that.
But it's the first time we've ever paired up. You're the only commentator that up to this day I haven't paired up with yet. So
incredible.
I know for certain that this is the first.
You're like, gotta catch them all. But anyway, and I'd also like to thank I'd like to thank everyone who tuned into this this stream and especially put up with all of my technical difficulties. I'm going to try my absolute best to get those sorted out for the Hungaroring, and of course hope that I can actually be there and hope that work commitments don't get in the way again. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to everyone that we interviewed, and as you said, Amir, thank you to Chris and Lorenzo for everything that they do in the background. We will see you in 2 weeks' time at the Hungaroring. Goodbye.